So it's Friday, it's the last day of the fund drive. It is your last opportunity to say to Free Speech TV and to this show, yeah, I value you as much as Netflix or Hulu or whatever I subscribe to, which is what, $10 a month or something, like $15 a month. I'll make a regular recurring contribution to Free Speech TV, or I'm going to send in $150 today and get a copy of that book or one of those t-shirts, or $50 and get the tote bag, or whatever it may be. This is your last chance, and we are so close to hitting our goal for this pledge. We just need a really good Friday, and if you can help with that, if you haven't already called 877-378-8669, now is the time to do it. Please call now, 877-378-8669. We subscribe to so many different things, your cable service or your satellite service. You may pay for premium channels. There's all these things that, frankly, Netflix and Hulu. I suppose you could say that's as important as Free Speech TV because we need to be both entertained and informed. But let's do both. If that's what it is, whatever it may be. But please help out now. Whether it's a $5 or $10 or $15 or $25 a month monthly, recurring, becoming a sustaining member of Free Speech TV, or whether it is simply a one-time gift, from a $5 gift to a $500 gift, whatever is comfortable for you, whatever you can afford, whatever you would like to give to support Free Speech TV and this program, this is your last opportunity. Today. Last chance. So get it in now. Call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that encourages people to just get out there and vote. I'm voting, are you? With a $50 gift, with a $30 gift, there's the world famous Trump toilet paper. Trump has apparently a gold toilet or a gold-plated toilet. We can't give those away, but we can give away Trump toilet paper with a $30 gift. So call now and get your Trump toilet paper. It's, if nothing else, it's just wonderful when company comes to visit. If you're sheltering in place, as it were, self-quarantining, it'll give you a smile. That's with a $30 gift. With a $50 gift, there is the Just Effing Vote canvas tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug. And I've got to get over to the Free Speech TV website online and get my own here. I'm going to have to. I keep meaning to do that. That's with a $75 gift. With a $120 gift. You have your choice. There is an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, and you've heard me tell the story about that book and the other books, through the course of the week, so I won't repeat that at length. But I think it's a really important book, and it's a book that that we all should try to get as many people as possible to read. Whether you get one copy and you just pass it around to a lot of people, or whether you get a couple of copies and send them to friends and neighbors, or if you already have one, make this one your personal copy because it's autographed, whatever. This is, and I'm not saying this because I wrote the book. There's a lot of other people who are saying the same thing. Greg Palast, for example. This is one of the most important books in America right now. It's with a $120 gift. You get an autographed copy. With a $240 gift, get together. We will get together on the internet and have a virtual meet and greet, coronavirus free. With a $300 gift, there is the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family. There's the car magnet. to help get out the vote. There's the Just Effing Vote tote bag, and there is the autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $360 gift, there are all three of the Hidden History series books. That is The Hidden History of the War on Voting, which we talked about, the hidden history of the Supreme Court and how the Supreme Court has betrayed our country. It has certainly betrayed the values of the New Deal and the Great Society. The Supreme Court is the most right-wing instrument in the American government right now. And they have done just extraordinary harm to working people in this country, to the social fabric of our country, and they continue to. And Trump wants to make it even worse. And we just can't let that happen. And then also the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment, the whole story, the whole racist history, essentially, of not just the Second Amendment, but it actually starts out with the use of guns to conquer people in the Americas, how Europeans came over here and committed a mass genocide larger than any the world has ever seen. Everybody remembers the Holocaust. This was much larger, and it's still going on. And so that's in the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment. And that's with a $360 gift. You get all three books. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and see us, once the insanity here kind of dies down. So, I don't think I named the two T-shirts, the $120 gift T-shirts if you want. Just Effing Vote and Ask Me About Free Speech TV. So those are the premiums, those are the gifts. But the most important thing is this is your last chance right now. 877-378-8669. Your last chance to become part of the Free Speech TV family. Support this program on our network. 877-378-8669. Thank you. Well, happy Friday the 13th. The stock market is slightly back up a little bit. Typically when markets are going down, they do these bumps up. They did it in 1929, for example, and in 2009 or 2008. And those are really just kind of buying or selling opportunities, depending on which direction they're betting, for wealthy people and big traders. So, I'm not expecting this to get a whole lot better. Congressman Mark Pocan is going to be with us in our second hour today, and he will be with us for the full hour taking your calls. He's the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, of course. And Melinda St. Louis, the campaign director of Medicare for All at Public Citizen, will be with us also in our third hour. So I just wanted to bring you up to date on what's going on. It's Anything Goes Friday, of course, so anything you want to talk about, feel free to give us a shout. And, I'll be more than happy to take your calls. Joshua for Congress is tweeting, and this is a good one, the coronavirus is how immigrant detention centers could become death camps real quick. And I would add, when we message this, we need to say not just for the immigrants, but for the guards. All right? It would be probably not a bad idea if we're going to spread a little concern or even fear to help some of the people who are thinking, oh yeah, we're going to make some serious money here running this private prison, with these immigrants in it, or the people who are out there, enthusiastically rounding them up, to think, wait a minute, maybe I should not be doing this. Anyhow, all it takes is one detainee to get it, and they'll all get it. We need to shut down the immigrant detention centers immediately. Absolutely. And, so true. This is an amazing story. I just want to share a bunch of news here with you, first of all. One of the things that we've learned, and just recently, actually I learned it recently, I don't know how long China has known this, but the reports in the United States have been speculating for weeks about how long people are, what's the window of contagion from the time you're exposed and infected. The exposure actually gets into your system from that time until the time that you show symptoms. Where in that window, because that can be up to 14 days, and for some people it's even longer. It could be 20, 21 days, but the 14 days seems to be the 95, 98%. Where in that window do people start shedding viruses? Because we know, for example, when people have the common cold or the flu, they start shedding viruses a day or two before they become symptomatic. Well, it turns out that people who are exposed to, and it got into their system, the coronavirus, they start shedding viruses within 24 hours, whereas it can take up to 14 days for them to be symptomatic. And therefore, in my opinion, anybody who works in a hospital, and two of my kids do, I'm particularly concerned about this, anybody who works in a hospital or anybody who has regular contact with the public needs to be tested every single day. Because, if somebody's fine on Monday and on Monday afternoon they come into contact with somebody who exposes them, and then Tuesday morning they show up for work and they're testing positive now, even though they're not symptomatic, they would be infecting everybody that they come in contact with. And so, and of course that ain't going to happen when the test kits are being hoarded. These two companies, Quest and ProLabs or whatever it is, announced yesterday that they had each tested over 1,000 people. Well, isn't that nice? They're making some money. It's working out well for old Donald, but the cheapo World Health Organization test kits are not available in the United States. And so, we're just going to have to wait for these private for-profit companies to scale up to the point. It might be a month or two, maybe a few million people will get infected. I mean, this is how Trump is dealing with this. And frankly, teachers, anybody who's in contact with large numbers of the public, retail clerks who are handling money and handling people's credit cards as they hand them back and forth. Of course, they could be wearing nitrile gloves right now. These are all things that if I had been talking like this 2 months ago, 3 months ago, people would be saying, this is complete crazy panic stuff. This is like Alex Jones territory. But this is actually, it comports with the recommendations that are being made right across the board now by public health officials across the United States. And we just shut down all the public schools here in Oregon. I think the shutdown begins on Monday, so parents can spend the week getting ready. But Kate Brown, our governor, declared a statewide state of emergency. Our mayor here in Portland, Ted Wheeler, declared a state of emergency yesterday, I believe, and that's it. So we should be testing more people. I don't know how to say that more emphatically, and the fact that we're not is just crazy, and nobody is giving straight answers on this. And, on why can't any American who wants it get a test and get a test where they get the results in at the most an hour. You can do that with a flu test, which is testing for a virus. You can do that with an HIV test. You can buy them on Amazon. You can do that, with a hepatitis test. This is not rocket science. The technology is there. The World Health Organization has been making it available for months now. Meanwhile, and this is just, the general insanity. By the way, yesterday on NPR, somebody reported, and I've got it in my stack. I'll give you the details when I get to it, but reported that the reason why Trump didn't want the Food and Drug Administration to certify the World Health Organization test kits for use and sale in the United States, and they're still not certified, was because he thought that increasing numbers of infections being found by test kits would hurt his chances of getting reelected in November. And now this tweet just went out from GIF, or maybe it's GLF, can't quite tell, Sports, that's the Twitter handle, but it's actually the UFC. And I think that's the Ultimate Fighting Championship or something like that. The article doesn't say what the acronym stands for, and it's not something that I watch. But the CEO, here's the tweet. The UFC will not postpone or suspend events and will hold fights without fans in attendance. Without fans in attendance, and will move some cards to Las Vegas Apex Gym if needed. Dana White says he spoke with President Trump and Vice President Pence, and they advised him to move forward with events. Quote, they're saying be cautious, be careful, but live your life and quit panicking. The headline on Raw Story deceived me. I'm sorry. I thought that they were still going to have audiences. It says Trump convinced UFC CEO to continue events despite coronavirus. Well, yeah, a lot of sporting events are continuing. A lot are being canceled too. And appropriately so, as players are starting to test positive. That's not quite that big a deal. Anyhow, in Italy, 1,000 dead. In Iran now, we can see satellite pictures. We can see mass graves that they are digging in Iran. And these countries are just a matter of weeks, at the most a month, ahead of where we are. And the thing that we have in common with Italy and Iran is that both of those countries had right-wing governments. Iran, I don't have to explain it to you. Italy, Conte, the prime minister, formed a coalition with a faction that is almost Nazi. And, so it's a right-wing government, and they didn't want to look bad by reporting bad testing numbers, and so they withheld testing. And they encouraged people to go out in public. The Italian people love a crowd. And boom, they've got this explosion. Well, Trump did the same thing. And, we'll see how this plays out here in the United States. But this is so unfortunate and so real. Democrats, meanwhile, are pushing for a response that helps working families. And the Democrats are trying to pass a bill providing paid sick leave, expanded unemployment insurance, free coronavirus testing, and emergency food aid. Republicans are saying no to aid to working families. According to Mitch McConnell, this bill is an ideological wish list that was not tailored closely to the circumstances. Brilliant. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's Anything Goes, Friday the 13th. I'll be back with your calls after this. And welcome back. Let's see here. Let's pick up some phone calls. Paul in Ashland, Oregon, watching us on Twitter Live. Hey, Paul, what's up?
Good morning, Tom. I am looking at a PubMed analysis of almost 60,000 hospitalizations for Clostridioides difficile infection.
Right. C. diff that's a bacterial infection of the intestines that typically happens after people have been on long-term antibiotics. Go ahead.
Exactly. And there are other reputable studies that show, and as this study shows, I'll send you the link on Twitter, that cannabis use reduces the risk of Clostridioides by 80%. 80%. The antibiotic and antiviral and antifungal uses of cannabis are well documented. And
yeah, send me the link, Paul. I'd like to see that. Again,
I will.
I warn people against thinking that there are any, really simple magic bullets out there. But C. diff, which is typically how medical professionals refer to that, is a nasty, nasty bug. And in fact, in some cases, it has been so hard to get rid of that they're going to fecal transplants and things, which is, stuff that sounds gross and you don't want to probably talk about it on the radio, but that's right. How bad C. diff is. That sounds fascinating. I'd like to learn more about it. Send me the link. Paul, thanks for the call. Diane in Flemington, New Jersey. Hey, Diane, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Tom. I want to thank you for your ongoing efforts for most of your life to educate us. It has helped me immensely.
Well,
I was just sitting here, and because of your education, I know about the Spanish flu a little more than I did, and I thought, okay, the Spanish flu happened when? 1919, and then when did the Great Depression occur? Shortly thereafter.
10 years
connection?
Later.
Any connection?
No, the connection in 1919, the United States still had a relatively stable economy. The Spanish flu obviously upset the economy. But the top tax rate was still 91% left over from World War I. And we were still operating under the policies basically of Woodrow Wilson, the Democrat. And in the election of 1920, Warren Harding ran on a twin platform. One was, he had two slogans. One was a return to normalcy. And what he meant by that was do away with the war tax, the 91% income tax. And when he became president in 1921, in March of 1921, he actually did that. He actually reduced that top tax rate from 91% down to 25%, just like has been happening with Trump. And then his second slogan was more business in government, less government in business. In other words, privatize and deregulate. And he did those things too. And that kicked off what was referred to as the Roaring '20s, where the stock market just exploded. Working people's income actually went down during the Roaring '20s, but the income of very, very wealthy people went up substantially, and until 1929 when the market crashed. And it led right straight to the stock market crash. And, I lay all this out in that book that I wrote way back when, which you can buy used copies of online, the crash of 2016. And so I don't think that the Spanish flu had anything to do with the Great Depression. The Depression then and this one now that I think is coming are both the products of Republican economic policies. The Spanish flu and this epidemic are the result of not really knowing how to respond to them. Thank you for the call, Diana. Our 1 hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3 hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. And welcome back. It's Friday the 13th, and it's Anything Goes Friday. I like Friday the 13th, actually. They've typically been good days for me. Derek in Warner Robins, Georgia. Hey, Derek, what's on your mind today?
How you doing, Tom?
Good. And by the way, since I just noticed it with your call, Derek, and let me just let everybody know, because I'm doing the show from home, there's a slight, about a 1 second delay between the time I finish talking and you actually hear me finish talking, and vice versa. So all day long, callers and I will be talking over each other. And apologies in advance for that, and don't let it disorient you if you call into the show, and that happens. Sometimes it happens with cell phones and things. It's just something we have to live with. Back to you, Derek.
Okay, thanks. I've been a conservative for most of my life. I've listened to conservative media. Reagan was a great president, that kind of idea, until I watched a documentary by Oliver Stone, The Untold History of the United States. And it really shocked me to see the different ways people approach history. And so I have a lot of Facebook friends that are conservative, and when discussing FDR and the New Deal, I've seen comments like the New Deal extended the Great Depression and things like that. And I'm trying to investigate all of this as I now kind of try to challenge the things that I've been told and taught. Could you talk a little bit about the New Deal and what it did economically, and how we can, as people who seek the truth, get to a place where we understand history in its proper context?
Yeah. Of course, the Great Depression happened the Great Crash happened in 1929. That then led to the beginnings of the Depression in 1930 as unemployment started to ripple across the country. That unemployment then, as business activity went down, and business activity was going down because, people couldn't borrow money, and we're going to be seeing this here in a few months. So you had a wave of corporate bankruptcies, and thus people lost their jobs. They lost their jobs. They didn't have money to buy things. When people don't have money to buy things, then companies stop making them. When they stop making them, they lay off more people, and it becomes a downward spiral. And by 1932, by March of 1933, that was March 5th, 1933, was the day that Franklin Roosevelt was sworn into office, even though he was elected in November. In fact, they amended the Constitution to move the swearing-in date back to January 20th because the Depression got so bad in the first 3 months of 1933. The country needed FDR, and they didn't have him. Instead, they had, President Hoover, Herbert Hoover, and he was doing nothing. His solution was tax cuts, and it didn't do anything. It made things worse. And so what FDR did was he came in and he said, the problem here is that companies are not making things because nobody has any money to buy things. So what we need to do is inject money at the level of the individual person. We don't need to bail out industry. The way that you get industry going again is you give money to people. And John Maynard Keynes had written a book about this, and he was FDR's advisor. And Keynes even said, if you hire one guy to dig a hole and you hire the second guy to fill the hole and you pay them both, those guys will go into their community and they'll start buying things from stores, and that will start circulating money in the local community, and then companies will start hiring people to make things to sell in those stores, and you will bring the economy back. It's an artificial stimulus, but it reverses the downward spiral and starts an upward spiral. So instead of hiring people to dig holes and fill them, FDR created the Civilian Conservation Corps, which hired 1 million young men and sent them all across the country. We were having the Dust Bowl back then, which was largely the result of deforestation. And they planted tens of millions of trees, which stopped the Dust Bowl, this environmental disaster. He created the Works Progress Administration, which hired several million young men and some women, and built the Hoover Dam, and built and it created the Tennessee Valley Authority, and I mean, just put Americans back to work with federal money. It was borrowed money. This was all borrowed money. And by 1936, when FDR was running for re-election, unemployment had gone from and by the way, the day that the week before FDR was sworn in, the last banks in America closed. Every single bank in America was closed, and everybody lost all of their money. My mother's family was fairly wealthy up in northern Michigan, in Charlevoix. They owned a big house and all this kind of stuff. They lost everything. And my mom's dad had a heart attack and died when she was 13, in the Great Depression. So, it was a terrible, terrible situation. Well, by 36, that 35% unemployment rate was down to around 10 or 11%. It was still high, but it was, we were on our way out of the Great Depression. In 37, though, in the election of 36, the Republicans were doing all this fear-mongering about the deficit that FDR was running up, and that this was socialism. And by then, he had passed long-term unemployment insurance. He had passed Social Security. He had passed a number of things that would be shock absorbers for future depressions or recessions. And so anyhow, the Republicans were yelling and screaming, and so FDR and the Democratic Party were feeling all this pressure, and the newspapers also yelling and screaming that FDR was spending the country into bankruptcy, and we were going to see hyperinflation, which was already happening in Germany, by the way, hyperinflation, for completely different reasons. But everybody was hysterical about this. And so in 37, FDR dialed back these programs, dialed them back substantially, cut back government spending by almost 30%. And as a result, we started to slide back into the Depression. That upward spiral stopped, and a downward spiral began. By 38, he put us back, he restored those programs, and we started going forward again. And then, of course, in 41, I believe it was it December 5th, 1941, when Pearl Harbor was bombed? That was the biggest government stimulus program in the history of the United States, was World War II. And the entire country was mobilized, again, all with borrowed money. And that was what finally completely got us out of what was referred to until the early 1950s as the Republican Great Depression. So that's a snapshot history. Derek, did I explain it well for you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good luck. Carry the message forward. There's some good books out there on it as well. In fact, there's no shortage of them. But, what you want to learn about, if you want to really learn about how this happened, there's some great histories of the FDR presidency, that are just straight up histories. And also you want to look into Keynesian economics, which is how the United States ran until 1981, when Reagan flipped us to supply
the Thom Hartmann program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's Anything Goes Friday. We'll be back with more of your calls right after this. So it's Friday. It's the last day of the fund drive. It is your last opportunity to say to Free Speech TV and to this show, yeah, I value you as much as Netflix or Hulu or whatever I subscribe to, which is what, $10 a month or something, like $15 a month. I'll make a regular recurring contribution to Free Speech TV, or I'm going to send in $150 today and get a copy of that book or one of those T-shirts, or $50 and get the tote bag, or whatever it may be. This is your last chance, and we are so close to hitting our goal for this pledge. We just need a really good Friday. And if you can help with that, if you haven't already called 877-378-8669, now is the time to do it. Please call now, 877-378-8669. We subscribe to so many different things, your cable service or your satellite service. You may pay for premium channels. There's all these things that Frankly, Netflix and Hulu, I suppose you could say that's as important as free speech TV because we need to be both entertained and informed. But let's do both, if that's what it is, whatever it may be. But please help out now. Whether it's a $5 or $10 or $15 or $25 a month monthly, recurring, becoming a sustaining member of Free Speech TV, or whether it is simply a one-time gift, from a $5 gift to a $500 gift. Whatever is comfortable for you, whatever you can afford, whatever you would like to give to support Free Speech TV and this program, this is your last opportunity today. Last chance. So get it in now. Call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that encourages people to just get out there and vote. I'm voting, are you? With a $50 gift, with a $30 gift, there's the world famous Trump toilet paper. Trump has apparently a gold toilet or a gold-plated toilet. We can't give those away, but we can give away Trump toilet paper with a $30 gift. So call now and get your Trump toilet paper. It's, if nothing else, it's just wonderful when company comes to visit. If you're sheltering in place, as it were, self-quarantining, it'll give you a smile. That's with a $30 gift. With a $50 gift, there is the Just Effing Vote canvas tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug. And I've got to get over to the Free Speech TV website online and get my own here. I'm going to have to. I keep meaning to do that. That's with a $75 gift. With a $120 gift, you have your choice. There is an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, and you've heard me tell the story about that book and the other books, through the course of the week, so I won't repeat that at length. But I think it's a really important book, and it's a book that that we all should try to get as many people as possible to read. Whether you get one copy and you just pass it around to a lot of people, or whether you get a couple of copies and send them to friends and neighbors, or if you already have one, make this one your personal copy because it's autographed. Whatever. This is, and I'm not saying this because I wrote the book. There's a lot of other people who are saying the same thing. Greg Palast, for example. This is one of the most important books in America right now. It's with a $120 gift. You get an autographed copy. With a $240 gift, get together. We will get together on the internet and have a virtual meet and greet, coronavirus free. With a $300 gift, there is the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family. There's the car magnet, to help get out the vote. There's the Just Effing Vote tote bag, and there is the autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $360 gift, there are all three of the Hidden History series books. That is The Hidden History of the War on Voting, which we talked about, the hidden history of the Supreme Court and how the Supreme Court has betrayed our country. It has certainly betrayed the values of the New Deal and the Great Society. The Supreme Court is the most right-wing instrument in the American government right now. And they have done just extraordinary harm to working people in this country, to the social fabric of our country, and they continue to. And Trump wants to make it even worse. And, we just can't let that happen. And then also the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment, the whole story, the whole racist history, essentially, of not just the Second Amendment, but it actually starts out with the use of guns to conquer people in the Americas, how Europeans came over here and committed a mass genocide larger than any the world has ever seen. Everybody remembers the Holocaust. This was much larger, and it's still going on. And so that's in the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment. And that's with a $360 gift. You get all three books. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and see us, once the insanity here kind of dies down. So, I don't think I named the two T-shirts, the $120 gift T-shirts, if you want, Just Effing Vote and Ask Me About Free Speech TV. So those are the premiums, those are the gifts. But the most important thing is this is your last chance right now. 877-378-8669. Your last chance to to become part of the Free Speech TV family. Support this program and our network, 877-378-8669. Thank you. Coming up on the Science Revolution this week, first, Trump is using the same logic on COVID-19 that he used for pesticides and pollution. And I'll explain why that's not a good thing. Nilay Marian, Forestry and Biodiversity Framework Coordinator with Friends of the Earth International, is here. Can we stop mass extinctions? Eva Hamer, Legal Coordinator of Direct Action Everywhere, drops by on her article, Why I Went Topless at Costco. Plus, geeky science. This is what happens when public transit is free. But wait, there's more. Tune in to the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are found. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's Anything Goes Friday, but Melinda I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, Melinda St. Louis would be with us a little later on in the program. We had to move things around. So she's here now, and she is the campaign director with the Medicare for All campaign that is part of Public Citizen. Citizen.org is the website. Her Twitter handle is Melinda Pubcit, Pubcit, and of course, public_citizen. Melinda, welcome back to the program. It's been a while since we've talked.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda. So I heard the president, and I thought I heard him say in his address to the nation a couple nights ago, but I certainly heard him say when he was having his little roundtable with the insurance company executives and brought the news media in, that he had directed the insurance industry, or they had volunteered, or whatever, to cover all the costs, no co-pays, no deductibles, for coronavirus testing and treatment. Is that the case? Did I hear that right?
Well, that is what did come out of his mouth, and yet that does seem to be a mischaracterization of what our for-profit insurance system is willing to do. We immediately afterward, a lobbyist from the largest health insurance lobby made clear that they had agreed to testing, but not to waive copays and deductibles for treatment, and so that was, either they were contradicting him or it was a mischaracterization, and I think it's really just lays bare just how greedy our for-profit supposed healthcare system is, that they are continuing to make clear that they intend to profit off of coronavirus treatment in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, the distinction that I think that people who are opposed to Medicare for All keep missing, and I'm baffled as to why, particularly the Democrats who are opposed to Medicare for All keep missing this, is that the health insurance industry, to call it the health insurance industry is a misnomer. These are not people who have any credentials with regard to health. These are bankers. They're taking in enormous amounts of money. They're skimming 10, 20, 30% off the top and putting it in their own pockets. The last two CEOs of United Healthcare, the first one, Bill McGuire, took $1.6 billion in total compensation. Stephen Helmsley followed him and took, I believe it was over $800 million in compensation. These guys are getting, and there's over 100 people working at United Healthcare who make over $1 million a year. These guys are getting rich, and all they do is pay our bills. They just write checks. They're bankers. They're not health people. Or am I missing something?
That is exactly right. And in fact, their business model is to take in obviously more in premiums than they pay out in services. So there is enormous incentive to deny care in our for-profit supposed healthcare system. And what we know, what that means is that fully 1/3 of our healthcare dollars, so we spend double what most other countries, comparable countries, spend on health care, and our outcomes are dead last on almost every indicator. Well, that's because a fully 1/3 of what we spend goes into CEO pay, goes into profits for shareholders, etc. This is when you really think about it, the idea that anyone would earn a profit over health care, basic health care, and now laid even more bare in the context of this public health emergency is an outrage. And I think it's starting to. I think even what we're seeing is that even those who have been opposed to Medicare for All do find themselves realizing that we do need that in the context of the coronavirus, because this isn't. Healthcare should be a human right, but also if your neighbors don't have access to testing and treatment and vaccines when they become available, that means that we are in a much more dangerous position than other peer countries in being able to combat this pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, and this is, I think, probably the most shocking part of this, and I was surprised this morning looking at the news reporting on this that nobody was pointing this out. Essentially what the health insurance industry just said to the American public is that because there's very, very few people who have, no co-pays and no deductibles. There's very few. I'm guessing probably fewer than 5% of Americans have policies that have no co-pays and no deductibles. So basically what the health insurance industry said to the American public was, if you think you might have the coronavirus, and if you can't afford that $50 or $100 copay to go to the doctor to find out, or if you get sick and you actually need treatment from your physician or from a hospital, don't go, don't get treatment, don't check it out, because we're not going to cover the copays and deductibles, and you're going to have to pay for them out of pocket. And 40% of America can't handle a $400 expense. More than half of Americans can't handle a $1,000 expense. And most, the average insurance deductible, even with the Obamacare plans, is, I believe, between $3,000 and $5,000. You do this for a living. You probably know better than I do. But isn't that basically the message that they're conveying to Americans now?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we already know that already 1 in 3 adults report that they do not seek care that they need due to cost, and that's before the coronavirus. We also know that some of the early people who went to get testing got hit with surprise bills of upwards of $3,000. So that is, and the insurance company initially said that they weren't going to pay that. So everyone in the United States has a story about fighting with their insurance company. And so if you have a question and you're worried that you might end up as one of the 500,000 Americans who goes bankrupt due to medical debt, you're going to think twice, and you're not going to get the care you need, and particularly the preventative care you need or the testing that you need. And that puts us, again, at an enormous disadvantage in trying to combat something as virulent as this coronavirus pandemic. And the insurance companies just made very clear, no, we intend to continue to profit off of treatment for coronavirus.
Now, Trump also said, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought for sure he said when he was sitting there with all those insurance industry executives, no more surprise billing. They're walking that back here now, too. Did they lie to him, or did he lie to us? Do we know?
Well, with surprise billing, there are currently 10,000 Americans every day who receive a surprise bill. And just to be clear what that means, what that is people who have insurance go to an in-network hospital, they do the research, they go to a hospital that is in their network, and then there happens to be a provider at that hospital that is not covered in their network, and then they get a surprise bill for hundreds, thousands, up to tens of thousands of dollars. If you have a surgery or if you go to the emergency room, you are likely to be hit with these surprise bills. It's completely outrageous, and yet Congress hasn't even been able to close this outrageous loophole due to immense spending by private equity firms that have gotten in on the game that are actually putting providers into hospitals outside of networks, and their business model is to just surprise bill patients, and we've already seen examples of that happening for people seeking a treatment for coronavirus.
Just to clarify, it sounds to me like what you're telling me is that these private equity companies, like Mitt Romney's business model, right? That they are buying up hospitals, and now they can run these hospitals, and they're saying, somebody's going to come in for an appendectomy or for a knee replacement or whatever it may be, and they're going to call and say, does my insurance company, is your hospital in the network? We'll say yes, all's good. They come in, but we're going to put an anesthesiologist who you won't even see until you're unconscious, or we're going to put somebody that the patient's never going to interact with, or a piece of machinery or a piece of equipment into that hospital that won't be covered by the insurance company, just so we who own the hospital can send that person a $10,000 bill and increase our profits. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we're seeing that happen with with hospitals, but we also see private equity actually like running networks of providers. So actually having doctors would actually be employed by a private equity company and then work as contractors in even public hospitals and even other hospitals.
Oh my God!
And they are necessarily not in network. It's almost like boggles the mind that this can actually be happening, and yet it's happening extraordinarily common. It's very common now, and they are using and now using campaign contributions to congressional leaders. They're trying to even block even modest action, and so that's why we know we need a Medicare for All system that would provide everyone with the health care they need without any copay.
I'm with you. Melinda, hang on just a second. We're going to get stepped on here.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Melinda St. Louis, she's the campaign director for the Medicare for All campaign at Public Citizen, citizen.org. Melinda Pubsit. Thank you, Melinda.
Thank you very much.
And welcome back. And Robbie in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Robbie, what's up?
Happy Friday the 13th, Tom. So I've been we've talked about Texas. You think that it was done by the state, but there was a recent development. It hit the courts on Tuesday. Let me quote from you. This is from a webpage, WFAA. It's the ABC channel in Texas, because only local news stations are reporting about the election rigging that the DNC is doing. But over here it says, over our strong objection, they said they wanted a group of machines. These are talking about the polling machines that they used, some for Republicans, some for the Democrats. And ultimately, it was the party's approval. The Democrats only wanted 1,000 voting machines there in Dallas, Texas, and the Fort Worth area, and they're actually all of Texas. It says they deployed these machines as they had extra machines that they were able to use. Like there were, those missing ballots, the 44 thumb drives with over 10% of the votes that they were not counted.
Yeah.
That was in all the places where they decided to do these polling stations. There was extra polling things that they used that these are the ones that they didn't count. This is directly an election rigging that the DNC did.
Yeah, I'm seeing these reports, and it's very troubling. Also, California and Iowa, the results that were Bernie won. Those results came in so late that he lost the impact of those wins. And
Tom, this isn't even about the impact of the. I mean, they did that with Iowa very clearly, but they literally have taken votes away from the American people. The Democratic Party approved of not allowing more polling stations. They took it away. And guess what? Our own state,
I get it, Rob. And I get it. And, it looks like this is, specifically to X out Bernie. And, I get it, and I'm very troubled by it. And, we need to get some answers, and we need to raise some hell about it. Robbie, thank you for calling and pointing that out. John in Hillsboro, Oregon. Hey, John, what's up?
March 5th, there was a vote in both the Senate and the House on the virus. So I was just kind of curious about how the vote went out. I know it passed, but on the House of Representatives, two congressmen, one from Colorado, one from Arizona, they voted down because it would contribute to the deficit. In the Senate, everybody's favorite Republican, Rand Paul, voted against it. He said it could be better use to serve Kentuckians on this money.
You're talking about the $8.3 billion...
yes, exactly. Yeah, that was on March 5th. But I know that's kind of general news, but maybe this might be for Representative Pocan, whatever. How do you, work with people who have this, they're drowning in their dogma? I mean, I know there's been books on this and whatever, but, people are dying, we're in an emergency, and they have this petty little thing that it would contribute to the deficit. But I thought for Republicans, deficits don't matter.
Yeah, when you've got a Republican president, I mean, this is why they just added $1.5 trillion to the deficit, but $8 billion, which isn't even 1% of that.
I call the GOP gathering of psychopaths. Not gathering of
or not sociopaths.
Yeah,
absolutely, John, I'm with you. Thanks a lot for the call, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV. We'll be right back. It's Anything Goes Friday here on the Thom Hartmann program, live from my home office. We'll be right back. Hey, did you know that Hillary Clinton actually won Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Florida in the 2016 election? It's on page 92 of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. Welcome back. Anything Goes Friday here on the Thom Hartmann program. And just heads up at the top of the hour, in the second hour of our program, Congressman Mark Pocan will be with us taking your calls for the full hour. Ross in Livingston, Montana. Hey, Ross, what's on your mind today?
Oh, Tom, I think it's Russ, right?
Oh, Russ, I'm
Doesn't
sorry.
matter.
Yes, the type is really small
no worries,
when I'm
man.
doing it remote. What's up?
Well, great job, young man. The way I see this, Tom, is we're on a big boat, and we're going down a river, and we're all watching Trump at the helm. And somebody says, hey, he's taking us over the falls. And somebody else says, yeah, he's taking us over the falls. So the next thing that we're going to hear is, hey, he took us over the falls. And what about Bloomberg or somebody that's got the money? What can somebody step up and purchase tests, take that chance, get them distributed, get the things that we need, and bypass?
Here's the problem, Russ. There are tests. Here's the problem. There are tests available all over the world, and governments can buy them. They're manufactured by a company out of Germany. The World Health Organization approved test. And, any state in the United States, in theory, could buy them and use them. The problem is, if they're not certified by the Food and Drug Administration specifically for the coronavirus, you can't use that test, you can't use the results of that test to do anything that has to do with public health. You can't report the results of that test. You can't hospitalize somebody based on the results of that test. You can't do anything legally, quarantine somebody as a result of that test. You can't shut down a school as a result of that test. And the Trump administration has refused to certify these tests in the United States. So if Bloomberg was to go to that German company and buy 1 million of the test kits and drop them over New York City from helicopters, it would not mean anything because they're not FDA approved and therefore they can't be used. Now, Trump just gave $1.5 million to two companies, Quest and Biolabs or LabCorp. And he just gave them $1.5 million to help speed up the development of for-profit testing systems here in the United States. And these two companies announced yesterday, I read it in the New York Times, I believe, that each one of them had successfully tested over 1,000 people yesterday, in one day. Wow, I'm impressed, right? But that's what's going on, Russ, is, Donald Trump and the Republicans are running this thing based on, it's got to be done on the profit motive. You can't be one of these socialist things where you get the World Health Organization involved and use their tests. And we don't want to be sending money to a German company. So it's got to be an American solution made in America that'll help keep America great, don't you know? So that's what's going on, Russ, and that's the answer to why you can't, why Michael Bloomberg couldn't buy the WHO tests out of Germany and pass them out. And meanwhile, you know, in South Korea, they've tested several 100,000 people. They're testing something like 10,000 people a day. Iran is testing people. Italy is testing people. All over Europe, they're testing people. Here in the United States, no. The total number of tests that was done by the CDC day before yesterday, I don't have yesterday's figures, the total number of tests completed by the Centers for Disease Control nationwide day before yesterday was 88. It's published on their website.
Yep. So no hero.
That's where we're at.
The falls we go. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. I'm with you. And that's why I'm doing this show from home. Russ, thanks a lot for the call. And why every single one of you, if you can, should limit any kind of exposure you can. And if you do have to go out and you're handling doorknobs or even store doors and things like that, don't touch your face and wash your hands frequently. Jeff in Mountain Air, New Mexico. Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Yeah, I've been thinking about a simple idea that we can institute at the local level, namely pickup and delivery of goods and meals. And people should start thinking about ordering a pickup or by delivery from restaurants, drugstores, grocery stores, and markets that offer such services. In other words, instead of going to the store and rummaging around and touching everything, you have the store employees, you phone in, the store employees assemble a package for you and either deliver it to you or you come in and pick up the package. But in rural areas, people may not have access to such services. So we need to talk to our local restaurants and markets about instituting pickup and delivery services, and we can contact local and state officials about ways to provide assistance for businesses to operate delivery services for individuals and families who feel the need to self-quarantine and self-isolate.
Yeah, I agree. And your points are very, very well taken. The one bit of data that I would add to that is, you know, what we've learned just in the last week or so for sure. And in fact, they were reporting it on NPR this morning. I was hearing it when I was taking a shower. That's probably too much information. Sorry. But anyhow, NPR was reporting that, and I think I talked about this yesterday, this study that had just come out yesterday that found that the coronavirus will live for up to 3 days on stainless steel. It'll live for up to 24 hours on, and it can live for up to 3 days on plastic, which would include a plastic bag that is being handed to you by a delivery person who themselves may be infected because they don't have sick pay and they're feeling badly, but they're going to work anyway. And it'll last for up to 24 hours on cardboard or paper. So when you get that bag, you know, and the food stuff from that restaurant or from that delivery service or whatever it may be, consider it possibly contaminated and treat it, you know, after you extract the food from it, and wash the food, wash your hands, you know, or use hand sanitizer. Because, you know, because we don't have test kits, we just don't know. We don't know if the delivery guy's infected. We don't know if the people stocking the shelves in the stores are infected. We don't know any of this stuff because Donald Trump is keeping us in the dark because he wants to make money for these two companies, Quest and LabCorp, and will not allow the FDA to certify the World Health Organization test kits. And it's insane. Jeff, thank you for the call. You know, I think it's such an important point. We are all in this thing together. I mean, Jeff's metaphor of we're all in the boat is perfect. We are all in this thing together. And that's the fatal flaw in, you know, Charles Koch's libertarian ideology, and not just Charles Koch, Ronald Reagan, I mean, the whole Republican Party, the Rand Pauls of the world, the Mitch McConnells of the world. That's the fatal flaw. Their ideology depends on what Margaret Thatcher said. There's no such thing as society. It's only a collection of individuals. Wrong. We are all in this together.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
So it's Friday. It's the last day of the fund drive. It is your last opportunity to say to Free Speech TV and to this show, yeah, I value you as much as Netflix or Hulu or whatever I subscribe to, which is what, $10 a month or something, like $15 a month. I'll make a regular recurring contribution to Free Speech TV, or I'm going to send in $150 today and get a copy of that book or one of those t-shirts, or $50 and get the tote bag, or whatever it may be. This is your last chance, and we are so close to hitting our goal for this pledge. We just need a really good Friday, and if you can help with that, if you haven't already called 877-378-8669, now is the time to do it. Please call now, 877-378-8669. We subscribe to so many different things, your cable service or your satellite service. You may pay for premium channels. There's all these things that, frankly, Netflix and Hulu, I suppose you could say that's as important as Free Speech TV because we need to be both entertained and informed, but let's do both, if that's what it is, whatever it may be. But please help out now. Whether it's a $5 or $10 or $15 or $25 a month, monthly, recurring, becoming a sustaining member of Free Speech TV, or whether it is simply a one-time gift, from a $5 gift to a $500 gift. Whatever is comfortable for you, whatever you can afford, whatever you would like to give to support Free Speech TV and this program, this is your last opportunity today. Last chance. So get it in now. Call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that encourages people to just get out there and vote. I'm voting, are you? With a $50 gift, with a $30 gift, there's the world famous Trump toilet paper. Trump has apparently a gold toilet or a gold-plated toilet. We can't give those away, but we can give away Trump toilet paper with a $30 gift. So call now and get your Trump toilet paper. It's, if nothing else, it's just wonderful when company comes to visit. If you're sheltering in place, as it were, self-quarantining, it'll give you a smile. That's with a $30 gift. With a $50 gift, there is the Just Effing Vote canvas tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug. And I've got to get over to the Free Speech TV website online and get my own here. I'm going to have to. I keep meaning to do that. That's with a $75 gift. With a $120 gift, you have your choice. There is an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, and you've heard me tell the story about that book and the other books, through the course of the week, so I won't repeat that at length. But I think it's a really important book, and it's a book that that we all should try to get as many people as possible to read. Whether you get one copy and you just pass it around to a lot of people, or whether you get a couple of copies and send them to friends and neighbors, or if you already have one, make this one your personal copy because it's autographed, whatever. This is, and I'm not saying this because I wrote the book. There's a lot of other people who are saying the same thing. Greg Palast, for example. This is one of the most important books in America right now. It's with a $120 gift. You get an autographed copy. With a $240 gift, get together. We will get together on the internet and have a virtual meet and greet, coronavirus free. With a $300 gift, there is the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family. There's the car magnet, to help get out the vote. There's the Just Effing Vote tote bag, and there is the autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $360 gift, there are all three of the Hidden History series books. That is The Hidden History of the War on Voting, which we talked about, the hidden history of the Supreme Court and how the Supreme Court has betrayed our country. It has certainly betrayed the values of the New Deal and the Great Society. The Supreme Court is the most right-wing instrument in the American government right now. And they have done just extraordinary harm to working people in this country, to the social fabric of our country, and they continue to. And Trump wants to make it even worse. And we just can't let that happen. And then also the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment, the whole story, the whole racist history, essentially, of not just the Second Amendment, but it actually starts out with, the use of guns to conquer people in the Americas, how Europeans came over here and committed a mass genocide larger than any the world has ever seen. Everybody remembers the Holocaust. This was much larger, and it's still going on. And so that's in the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment. And that's with a $360 gift. You get all 3 books. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and see us, once the insanity here kind of dies down. So, and I don't think I named the 2 T-shirts, the $120 gift T-shirts if you want. Just effing vote and ask me about Free Speech TV. So those are the premiums, those are the gifts. But the most important thing is this is your last chance right now. 877-378-8669. Your last chance to become part of the Free Speech TV family. Support this program and our network. 877-378-8669. Thank you. Last chance to call right now. You can call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669. This is literally the last chance. It's the end of our program, and it's the end of the pledge, and it's Friday, and that's it. So call now. 877-378-8669, and let the folks at Free Speech TV know that you are contributing and that you want to help support this network and help support this program and keep us all on the air and keep everything going. We are just this close to hitting our goals, which is wonderful. And we really need your help to do that. There's all kinds of great premiums, including autographed copies of my books and the T-shirts and all kinds of cool stuff. I have yet to meet someone who is an expert. Please call now and make your contribution. 877-378-8669. It's really important. It's really important to do it now. It's really important to do it, well, now, I guess. Last chance. Please call now. Thank you so much.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back. Happy Friday the 13th. It is time for Congressman Mark Pocan, Middays with Mark here on the Thom Hartmann Program. He is the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus along with Pramila Jayapal. He represents the 2nd District of Wisconsin in the U.S. House of Representatives. His website is Pocan, POCAN.house.gov, and you can tweet him at Rep. Mark Pocan. Congressman, welcome back.
Thanks, Tom. Glad to be here today.
Congressman?
Yep. Oh, I should be. Can you hear me?
Got him on. Oh, there you are. Yes, I hear you.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm doing the show from home today, by the way. In fact, we're trying to as many of us as possible who can work from home. We're trying to make that happen, and I'm the first because I've got this portable rig here, and I'm wondering how you and the rest of Congress are responding to this, particularly now that you've got a half a dozen of your members in self-quarantine, and this seems to be ripping through the country.
Yeah, I mean, this. I think we're all learning day by day what we need to do, and we know that the measures are going to be increased, and it's going to get worse before it gets better with what's going on. And certainly here in Washington now, they've stopped tours. They've stopped. If someone has a meeting, they have to be escorted into any of the office buildings. That will essentially, I think, stop meetings. Many offices are starting to talk about working remote, because if you can't have meetings here anyway, we can do much of the work remotely, assuming the computer network will hold up to that, which I think is still got to be tested. We are waiting to do a big recovery package for families around the coronavirus, but having some issues right now with the Republicans and trying to finalize this. But, there are still so many concerns. I think every single day, Tom, I have briefings on this. We've had chances to talk to people from Dr. Fauci, head of the FDA, CDC, go down the list. We're way behind where we should be. A lot of decisions should have been made a month ago. We're playing catch up, but we've got a lot of issues to deal with, and because of it, we know it's going to be worse before it gets better.
The Obama's former Ebola czar, Ron Klain, was on Rachel Maddow's show a couple nights ago. And he said that Trump had outsourced and privatized the testing. That in the United States we don't have the WHO tests available because they're made by. This isn't what he said. Those were his words: outsourced and privatized. And he said it had gone to two companies exclusively, to Quest and to LabCorp. And I saw an article this morning or yesterday in the Financial Times that those two companies reported yesterday proudly that each company had tested over 1,000 people yesterday. The CDC had tested 88 people officially. And that Trump gave them $1.5 million to speed up development. So in the next few weeks, we should have more test kits available, rather than taking these test kits that every other country in the world is buying from this German company, or they're licensing manufacturing within their country from the German company, the WHO tests. What do you know about that? And is what I just said, to the best of your knowledge, accurate?
Well, it's one of the many problems is how they've dealt with this. So we have not gotten a straight or direct answer, and we have asked it why we didn't just go with the World Health Organization kits. We were given something about the health network in the United States. But right now they're trying to come up with telling you the number we had this week is there's 2.5 million test kits available. That'll cover 989,000. Here's what they're not telling you, and they won't tell us, and we just got a response back today from the CDC on our capacity nationwide in all labs, public and private, right now to process tests is 25,000 a day. So even if you have enough capacity to test 900 or enough test to test 989,000 people, we can only do 25,000 a day unless we ramp up that testing. So we are currently trying to ramp up more private labs and other public labs to be doing this, but this should have happened weeks and maybe months ago, not
should have happened in December.
Right now. Yeah. So this is, and to be fair, Tom, American Enterprise Institute fellow, or I'm not sure his official title, but Scott Gottlieb, the former head of the Food and Drug Administration under Donald Trump, has been the best person out there talking about this. He's the one who I'm getting these numbers from, because I can't get them from any government agency. So he's actually tracking this, and essentially CDC confirmed that he's probably right, but probably is because they don't know the exact number or they're not willing to share it. So there's so much that's wrong going on. And then also, Tom, something I think you're familiar with is we've heard from a loved one of someone who has a loved one at 75 miles from the Iranian border at a military base, a U.S. military base, 5 miles away from a city in Afghanistan that has 5 coronavirus cases, or had 5 coronavirus cases. And we're hearing a bunch of soldiers have flu-like conditions, testing negative for the flu, but we don't have coronavirus tests for those folks. And, you know, that's unconscionable, right, at this point. And we were notified that, no, there are no tests available in Afghanistan right now for our military personnel, as well as other places. So there is just so much wrong about the response around testing. Also, Ron Klain has said we got to proactively test people, anyone with conditions in a hospital or any health setting, as well as health professionals. We're not proactively doing anything because we don't have the capacity still to do this. So there's so many things wrong, Tom. I don't know if I can say your single statement is indicative of the problem, because there's many problems. And I actually think right now we have to increase lab capacity, private and public, as much as possible because of all the balls that were fumbled in weeks earlier.
Well, and my understanding, and I can't point to a single source for this, but is that had the FDA merely certified the WHO test for coronavirus, which could have been done at any point, it could have been done back in December when it was first rolled out, then everything would have been good. But because the FDA has refused to certify that test for coronavirus, even if Michael Bloomberg were to buy 1 million of those test kits from that German company and drop them by helicopter over New York City, and everybody tested themselves, and these are relatively instant tests, by the way, 15-minute result, and everybody tested themselves, you couldn't use the results of that to get out of work, to go to the hospital, to see your doctor, to do anything, because it's not certified by the FDA, and so the results are not legally meaningful. And that seems to be the roadblock here. And until, now I guess Quest and LabCorp have now had their tests approved by the FDA, so they're now rolled out, but they're just starting to manufacture these things in the United States.
Well, and there's new test kits coming out that'll be faster right now. But I think the fair thing I can say, Tom, is we have not gotten an answer, so I can't definitively tell you right why they didn't approve the World Health Organization test. But had they approved it at the time they would have, our numbers would have been higher for instances in the United States 4 and 6 weeks ago, but we would have acted sooner to lessen the spike we're going to have reported very soon in the United States. So the delay
and it was
in dealing
reported
with this
on NPR.
properly...
Forgive my interruption. We have a slight lag here because I'm doing this from home.
Sure.
It was reported, and we've got a minute to the break. I just got a cue. It was reported on NPR, and I haven't heard corroboration of this, and it kind of went away, but it was reported on NPR day before yesterday that Donald Trump had ordered essentially a roadblock, not certifying the test kits or whatever, that he didn't want people tested because he thought high numbers of infections would hurt his chances of getting reelected in November.
I think that there were many bad decisions made because of that, also not trying to spook the markets and a lot of other things. He bet that this wasn't as bad as it was, and from a failed casino owner like Donald Trump, he made a bad bet.
Yeah, I can't hear you right now. Sean, you need to take your finger off the button, I think.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, he made the wrong bet. He thought this would go away, and as a failed casino owner, he just made a wrong bet on this, period.
Yeah, and surprise, surprise, after 6 bankruptcies. I mean, who bankrupts a casino, right? Okay,
Right.
I'm done with my questions, and my apologies to all our listeners for taking so long. I will be tossing you to our callers as soon as we come back from this break. Congressman Mark Pocan is with us, the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's Middays with Mark, Friday the 13th edition. Congressman Mark Pocan taking your calls for the hour. And welcome back. Cliff in Santa Clarita, California. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Good morning, gentlemen. First, I'd just like to say that for us humans that feel we're so big and important in this world, this should be a very humbling experience. To me, it's amazing that something so small you can't even see in a microscope can bring the total world to its knees. It's just really an astonishing thing that's happening right now. I also would like to acknowledge Katie Porter for her questioning yesterday. I think she's amazing, and I really look forward to seeing more of her. Congressman, we've all witnessed the last 3.5 years of this president getting played like a fiddle by world leaders, but he's gotten away with everything. The Mueller report, the Puerto Rico, impeachment, the list goes on and on and on. No matter what happens, he's gotten away with it. I call him Teflon Don. They used to call Don Gotti that. Anyways, do you think that this is going to be the one thing that will be able to stop this president, that it's going to take him down? Because nothing has worked so far. Everything he's gotten away with so far. I'm just wondering if you think this will be the one thing that'll take him down. Thanks.
Yeah, Cliff, I really do. I think he's handled this so poorly, and even Republican members of Congress, I'm going to stand up for. We often ask the same questions these days around the coronavirus with the same intensity because none of us are getting answers. Because Donald Trump is afraid of the truth getting out there in so many cases on this, and he's handled it so incredibly poorly. We're seeing the stock market respond, and then his answers are things like bailing out oil companies when we need to be bailing out people who should be home if they're sick and not going to work, so you don't get more people sick. And that's what we're trying to do today, and hopefully in a bipartisan way in Congress. So Donald Trump has done just about everything wrong. And I think people really do realize that. Even my trolls that I normally follow on social media are significantly down on this one. And I think, even people who want to believe him for a lot of other reasons realize how tremendously poorly he has handled this.
Yeah. George in Santee, California. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yes. Yesterday, Bernie Sanders, I thought, came up with the most detailed, comprehensive plan to deal with this pandemic, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I know he put a plan out, Biden put a plan out. The one I'm watching is the one that's actually going to be voted on, George, and I think that's what we're trying to get done, which is things like extending unemployment comp, making sure we have paid sick leave, extending food benefits, because if we close down schools, don't forget, for many, many kids, that's their breakfast and lunch, the meals they're going to get if they're poor kids. We got to figure that out. We're doing a bunch that is family-focused right now in the House of Representatives. If we can get this done today, which I am still hopeful we will, that is the single most important thing right now we can do, but we know there's going to be other packages down the road. A lot of us are putting out suggestions, including some of the items that Bernie mentioned, but what matters is what's going to be voted on today, what we do immediately, and Nancy Pelosi is doing the right thing, and I hope that we'll be able to prevail with the Republicans.
Yeah. Mitch McConnell has said this is just a wish list of liberal ideas. Is he going to block anything you guys try?
I think we'll be able to override what he originally said, and I think there is real work going on between some in the White House and our leadership.
Good. That's good news to hear. Congressman Mark Pocan taking your calls for the hour here on the Thom Hartmann program. We'll be back in just a moment with Congressman Pocan and more of your questions. Stay with us. Our 1 hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3 hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. Welcome back. It's Friday the 13th, second hour edition of Middays with Mark. Congressman Mark Pocan taking your calls for the hour. Joe in Loxahatchee, Florida. I hope I'm pronouncing, or Loxahatchee? Do I have that right, Joe? You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for doing what you're doing. On the new news today, they announced that they're closing the voting polls, some of the voting polls, to protect the elderly against the coronavirus. What can you or we do to stop this voter suppression?
Yeah, actually, Joe, this is something, because so much is evolving, and I think I'm trying to be very patient as I look at various solutions. I saw Louisiana is going to be actually moving their primary date. I'm not sure this is a bad idea across the board. I'm not sure it's a good idea yet, but, we can't have it where you have a bunch of senior citizens going out where there could be groups of people. In Wisconsin right now, we have an April 7th primary. We're trying to get people to vote absentee, but you also don't want to suppress people by not having them come out because they're afraid because of what's going on. So I am open to every conversation right now. And I think we all need to be open to these conversations, especially given that I think the next 2 weeks are going to be especially significant about what's happening with this virus.
I got a press release from Ron Wyden yesterday saying that he's introducing legislation in the Senate to provide the states with $500 million so that every state in the country can mail an absentee ballot to every single voter in their state between now and November. For the November, I realize this doesn't help with the primaries, but for the November elections. Did you know about that? Might that happen in the House?
I did not know about that, but I can tell you our friend John Nichols from The Nation wrote a significant piece on this recently. Like, what are we doing for backup plans just in case? And of course, voting by mail would be one of the best options that you could do around that. So I will look to see what they're doing in the Senate. But I think everything has to be on the table right now. I think what we know is the next 2 weeks, followed by the next 2 months, are going to be the most important. But the next several weeks, especially important to try to get that peak to go down so that we don't overtake our ability to handle this in the hospitals and our medical systems. We assume that if we do that, you'll spread how many people will get the time over amount of time, how many people are going to get this. In summer peak months, it'll go down significantly, but people will still be getting it, but we expect a spike back in fall. So there's a lot of things that we're still learning, and I think around the elections, we have to have backup plans in place, and I think that's a good suggestion, is voting by mail.
Judy in Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yes, thanks for taking my call. Congressman, I'm a volunteer tax professional that works with the IRS grant program, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. And we're wondering, we had a site shut down So we're kind of shut out for the remainder of the tax season, and we've heard rumors that Congress may extend the tax filing deadline. Do you have any information on that?
Yeah, that's one of the things being discussed. I'm not sure if it'll be part of today's package, because today's package is trying to get support out there right now for people, and then there's going to be some other economic, although this will have economic impact, what we do today. There may be some other packages that deal with it, but this is certainly one of the things being talked about.
Marilyn in Madison, Wisconsin, you're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I am a mother of a soldier in Afghanistan, and you discussed part of my concerns. I have three issues I'd like to ask you about. I'm concerned. If the numbers of COVID disease in the military are being suppressed, commanders in each theater don't have the accurate data with which to complete accurate force readiness and force depletion assessments. This is ultimately going to be a problem if there is widespread COVID disease. The second is, are our military hospitals abroad, such as in Landstuhl and Kuwait and Qatar, have they been allowed to make contingency plans to accommodate military members with serious respiratory illness secondary to COVID? And I'm just, as a nurse, I know that they need to know the number and degree of COVID disease in the military. Also, as a Coast Guard brat growing up, I know about the military connectedness of service-acquired illnesses. We don't know what long-term sequelae of COVID infection, especially pneumonia, might be. And the VA has to prepare a plan for these sequelae and treating them, accommodating them. Also, the diagnosis of COVID-19 disease must be made during time in service for any resultant illness or disability to be service-connected once the military member separates. It affects both their treatment, their care at the VA's budget, and their individual pensions. Can you speak to these, please? These concerns, please?
Yeah, Marilyn, so I'm going to say it this way. You're raising many questions that we also have. The problem is we can't even get the most basics on anything right now. I think everyone is dealing with this and trying to move the ball forward, but in many cases, information is not being shared, sometimes because they just don't have it yet, sometimes because I think direction from the administration has not been helpful. Right now, the main issue we're focusing on is just trying to make sure that we have test kits available for military personnel overseas, because one of the problems is they're not going to have a lab there, clearly, but by the time you get that test to a lab, if it's not within 72 hours, the material quality will degrade. And while you can use dry ice and other things to try to save it, you can also get false negatives after 72 hours. So there's a lot of issues that we're dealing with in the immediacy that I think your questions will come a little bit later about benefits and things if they actually get this down the road. But right now, we want to make sure that every soldier has the access to a test and the care should they need this. One good thing I think I can share is that in general, and this is only in general, the younger you are, the stronger you are to this virus. And so hopefully that'll work to our advantage.
To the advantage of the young people in the military. It's going to work to the disadvantage of the longtime enlistees and the senior officer corps, I would think.
Yeah, although it's generally 60 and up, which are the most dangerous ages, but there are a whole bunch of asterisks to that, Tom.
Yeah, you're right. And they're retired out by then. Congressman Mark Pocan is with us. Stick around.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's Middays with Mark, Friday the 13th, second hour edition. Congressman Mark Pocan, the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, taking your calls for the hour. So it's Friday. It's the last day of the fund drive. It is your last opportunity to say to Free Speech TV and to this show, yeah, I value you as much as Netflix or Hulu or whatever I subscribe to, which is what, $10 a month or something, like $15 a month. I'll make a regular recurring contribution to Free Speech TV, or I'm going to send in $150 today and get a copy of that book or one of those T-shirts, or $50 and get the tote bag, or whatever it may be. This is your last chance, and we are so close to hitting our goal for this pledge. We just need a really good Friday, and if you can help with that, if you haven't already called 877-378-8669, now is the time to do it. Please call now, 877-378-8669. We subscribe to so many different things, your cable service or your satellite service. You may pay for premium channels. There's all these things that, frankly, Netflix and Hulu, I suppose you could say that's as important as free speech TV because we need to be both entertained and informed, but let's do both, if that's what it is, whatever it may be. But please help out now. Whether it's a $5 or $10 or $15 or $25 a month, monthly, recurring, becoming a sustaining member of Free Speech TV, or whether it is simply a one-time gift, from a $5 gift to a $500 gift. Whatever is comfortable for you, whatever you can afford, whatever you would like to give to support Free Speech TV and this program, this is your last opportunity today. Last chance. So get it in now. Call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that encourages people to just get out there and vote. I'm voting, are you? With a $50 gift, with a $30 gift, there's the world famous Trump toilet paper. Trump has apparently a gold toilet or a gold-plated toilet. We can't give those away, but we can give away Trump toilet paper with a $30 gift. So call now and get your Trump toilet paper. It's, if nothing else, it's just wonderful when company comes to visit. If you're sheltering in place, as it were, self-quarantining, it'll give you a smile. That's with a $30 gift. With a $50 gift, there is the Just Effing Vote canvas tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug. And I've got to get over to the Free Speech TV website online and get my own here. I'm going to have to. I keep meaning to do that. That's with a $75 gift. With a $120 gift, you have your choice. There is an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, and you've heard me tell the story about that book and the other books, through the course of the week, so I won't repeat that at length. But I think it's a really important book, and it's a book that that we all should try to get as many people as possible to read. Whether you get one copy and you just pass it around to a lot of people, or whether you get a couple of copies and send them to friends and neighbors, or if you already have one, make this one your personal copy because it's autographed. Whatever. This is, and I'm not saying this because I wrote the book. There's a lot of other people who are saying the same thing. Greg Palast, for example. This is one of the most important books in America right now. It's with a $120 gift. You get an autographed copy. With a $240 gift, get together. We will get together on the internet and have a virtual meet and greet, coronavirus free. With a $300 gift, there is the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family. There's the car magnet, to help get out the vote. There's the Just Effing Vote tote bag, and there is the autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $360 gift, there are all three of the Hidden History series books. That is The Hidden History of the War on Voting, which we talked about, the hidden history of the Supreme Court and how the Supreme Court has betrayed our country. It has certainly betrayed the values of the New Deal and the Great Society. The Supreme Court is the most right-wing instrument in the American government right now. And they have done just extraordinary harm to working people in this country, to the social fabric of our country, and they continue to. And Trump wants to make it even worse. And, we just can't let that happen. And then also the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment, the whole story, the whole racist history, essentially, of not just the Second Amendment, but it actually starts out with the use of guns to conquer people in the Americas, how Europeans came over here and committed a mass genocide larger than any the world has ever seen. Everybody remembers the Holocaust. This was much larger And it's still going on. And so that's in the hidden history of guns in the Second Amendment. And that's with a $360 gift. You get all 3 books. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and see us, once the insanity here kind of dies down. So, I don't think I named the 2 T-shirts, the $120 gift T-shirts if you want. Just effing vote and ask me about Free Speech TV. So those are the premiums, those are the gifts. But the most important thing is this is your last chance right now. 877-378-8669. Your last chance to become part of the Free Speech TV family. Support this program and our network. 877-378-8669. Thank you. Coming up on the Science Revolution this week, first, Trump is using the same logic on COVID-19 that he used for pesticides and pollution. And I'll explain why that's not a good thing. Nilay Marian, Forestry and Biodiversity Framework Coordinator with Friends of the Earth International, is here. Can we stop mass extinctions? Eva Hamer, Legal Coordinator of Direct Action Everywhere, drops by on her article, Why I Went Topless at Costco. Plus, geeky science. This is what happens when public transit is free. But wait, there's more. Tune in to the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are found. And welcome back. It's Middays with Mark, Friday edition. Congressman Mark Pocan taking your calls for the hour here on Friday the 13th. And Kevin in Santa Fe, New Mexico, listening on KTRC. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Thank you for taking my call, Tom, and thank you for being there, Congressman Pocan. I wanted to ask for help with information because, well, as our free press is set up for profit only, I keep running into the paywalls, and the government isn't really putting out really good information or timely. With what's on the CDC right now is from yesterday, after all. And can Congress do anything to influence major media outlets like Washington Post and the New York Times to let down their paywalls temporarily?
Kevin, let me just hop in here real quick. New York Times yesterday announced that all of their coronavirus information, news, and reporting would be outside their paywall. So you should be able to go to nytimes.com and see that. But that said, let's see what Congressman Pocan has to say.
Yeah, I'll tell you, let me answer part of what you brought up in the question since Tom answered that part. I'll say the sources I go to. Dr. Fauci, first of all, should be the only spokesperson, period, nationally on this issue. He has respect from everyone. He's a straight shooter. And whenever we have someone from the administration who's not giving us information, it's a disservice to everything they care about and we care about happening. So Dr. Fauci should be the only person. I follow anything he says. I've been following Dr. Scott Gottlieb, who is the former FDA head under Donald Trump, a Republican, who works at the American Enterprise Institute, something I don't usually refer to, but he has been an incredibly good player in putting out information about the lack of lab access, et cetera, things that we need to address, and the World Health Organization. Unfortunately, the CDC has not kept up with what they need to. They're not for a while last week, we had to write a letter. They took off the number of people who've been tested because they knew the numbers were so low. Putting your head in the sand is not the answer. It's aggressively, proactively testing people. So the places I go, Dr. Fauci, Scott Gottlieb on his Twitter account, and I follow the World Health Organization, and I think that will give you some good information as you're moving forward.
Dave in Federal Way, Washington. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hey, Congressman Pocan. You know, I don't want to sound overly dramatic, but I think the Progressive Caucus is like the only thing standing between us and oblivion. And let me say why. I just saw a report that Iran has built a huge trench, apparently. It's so large it can be seen from space. Now, the Iranian government is saying that that's for COVID victims. Okay, mass grave. Now, I don't believe the Iranian government. I don't think anybody else should. But let me say that what else it could be used for. It could be used for hiding aggregate for like an underground facility, aggregate material. It could be used for an underground nuclear detonation site. So my question is, 2 Americans and a British soldier were killed recently in Iraq. The Trump administration has increased the use of deadly force. It liberalized it, if you will. And with the Middle East being a tinderbox right now and so many things going on, is the Progressive Caucus remaining skeptical? Are they holding this administration to account?
Yeah, great question, Dave. So a couple of things I can answer to hopefully provide some peace. One, the problem every time they do something, the administration is going back to Iraq. They're claiming the 2002 authorization to go into war gives them the ability to do that as long as Iraq is mentioned. So they're using what was intended for Saddam Hussein now currently, and that's not what the Constitution says. Article 1, Section 8 says that Congress has the power to do this. So we've been very vigilant on that, and Barbara Lee, one of our members, has been the most strong on that issue without question. But also, this is exactly why we didn't want to pull out of the Iranian nuclear deal, because we had inspectors, and if there was something like that, we would have had someone there already inspecting to see what that is. Now, I haven't seen the accounts. I can't speak to it specifically, but were there something like that, that would have been covered under the deal we previously had, and the fact that we gave that up under Donald Trump for a lot of bad reasons is just another example of why this president has been so bad on foreign affairs and why we keep very vigilant on many of these issues around war and peace.
Lauren in Boca Raton, Florida. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Thank you, gentlemen. I really want to acknowledge your humility and your compassion and your bold leadership. Question. The UK science chief, Sir Patrick Vallance, they've announced that the UK's approach to this is herd immunity. Business as usual, let nature run its course. Everyone, majority of the population contracting COVID-19 will create and stimulate antibodies, kind of like what Abigail Adams did in our country in her response to smallpox, injecting herself and her children with it to build antibodies. And Congressman, you just mentioned how there's kind of a head in the sand response here. Are we following suit? Are we just herd immunity? Is that the plan for the U.S. to deal with it?
Yeah, Lauren, thanks for the question. So I don't think that's the plan. If there were a plan, I would be satisfied. I don't think Donald Trump had a plan for a long time. His plan was this won't expand as fast. He was betting on that. He didn't want to have more numbers shown because he thought, one, he would look bad, two, the markets would react poorly. He's way too late for that. So I think it's more out of ignorance than a mass plan like that. Having said that, let me say a few things I think are really important for people to know. If you're under 15, and it's very unlikely you'll even show symptoms. There will be some, like in any biologic situation, but it's one of the things, if we can learn why you don't have a symptom when you're under 15, that would be very helpful for us moving forward. It seems like the younger and healthier you are, the better off you'll be. It'll be more like a flu. For people who are 60 or above or with any serious medical condition, that's where we ask those populations not to be traveling right now. They certainly shouldn't be going in groups right now. In fact, when you're in your 70s, 80s, or even 90s, it's even more important. I had a deal today, quite honestly, with a doctor back in my hometown who wanted my 91-year-old mother to come in for a non-emergency visit, and I had to intervene and say, no, you're not. Actually, it was today, it was the visit. It doesn't make sense to have a 91-year-old traveling to a medical facility right now if it's not in a real situation, just for a general pickup. And the doctor told me that they're not getting clear information and they're doctors. So there's just so much that I think we all need to have as much goodwill that we're raising right now together to deal with this. Understand washing your hands, coughing into your elbow, having that social distancing right now is so very important. And if we do this together, especially in the next 2 weeks, we can really lower that peak. And that's why I don't want to really go into the blame game as much as just say, right now we've got to get more people proactively tested. We have to get the labs ramped up so they can test people. And let's do common sense thing like making sure our troops overseas have tests. If we all work towards those goals, and Dr. Fauci, I think, has been so good in expressing those, despite some of the setbacks from the administration, we're going to be a lot better off.
Roger in Bisbee, Arizona. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yes, good morning, Tom. Good morning, Congressman, or good afternoon, I guess, for you. I've heard several references recently to, in fact, your earlier guest about surprise billings and LabCorp in particular. And that I just had that kind of an event with LabCorp and kind of got me doing a little research. I found they made $11 billion last year. And when I went in to get my blood test the last time, the requirement was to sign off that I'd pay anything insurance companies didn't pay. But anyway, LabCorp's been Pac-Manning everything up. And so my question to the congressman is how do we get these commercial labs out of this, what I consider a continuing wealth transfer for process?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of what should have happened, again, 4 to 6, maybe even 8 weeks ago, was as soon as we knew all of this, one, I think we could have used the World Health Organization kits, and then they still don't have a great answer on that. But two, ramp up our public capacity through the public facilities. Right now, New York State, for example, is trying to make sure they can license, and they've been given permission to license other laboratories within their state. We just were so slow at dealing with this, and we're paying the price right now. If the capacity is only 25,000 in a day, it doesn't matter if you can cover 989,000 with test kits. That will take 39 days to get those people tested. And in 3 days, the samples degrade. That's part of the problem. They weren't ready. They didn't respond effectively. And so I don't mind right now having to use the private facilities because I think we got to do everything we can to increase lab capacity, but it's because the wrong decisions were made early on. And right now, I think the focus has to be just on expanding lab access, proactively testing people, considering some of these things like drive-through testing, but for people who need it, only having Dr. Fauci be the spokesperson. That will establish the confidence we need. And if you address this as the health crisis it is, it'll help the economic crisis.
Thank you. Congressman Mark Pocan is with us for the hour, taking your calls. He's the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, represents the state of Wisconsin, the 2nd District in the U.S. House of Representatives. And his website is Pocan, POCAN.house.gov. You can tweet him at Rep. Mark Pocan. And be sure to give him a tip of the hat and a thanks for coming on and doing these national town hall meetings every week. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Middays with Mark on the Thom Hartmann program. Congressman Mark Pocan taking your calls at a national town hall meeting. And welcome back. Shannon in Ladera Ranch, California. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi to both of you fabulous people supporting free speech and free real facts. I so appreciate you every day, and I wish everyone could hear you. So thank you for that. I know time is precious. My question is, I watched fabulous Katie Porter yesterday get the CDC head to actually agree to pay for all testing free to every person in America to go in and be tested. Of course, you tried to backpedal at the very end. And as I heard you say, Congressman Pocan, that the Republicans are making a mess of it. So I know that there is funding in place, and you guys are doing your best. However, I'm wondering about the loophole they're going to use. Funding, you might have your $8 billion in funding that you've already got going. The problem is if they're going to send the funding only to people who can prove that they got a test and it was positive, or that their friend did, or whatever made them quarantine, how are they going to do that? How are you going to be able to get the funds out? And will it take months to get payment for that anyways?
Yeah, Shannon, I do think in this package today we will have it so that anyone who needs a test can get the test and doesn't have to worry about having to pay it out of pocket if that's the situation. So I really do think that's going to be addressed. Katie is a great questioner, but honestly, people have been doing that all week in different areas that maybe didn't get the same attention. Pramila Jayapal did a great job on making sure that someone who's here as who's not a citizen right now could get access, so we don't have an issue there. We've been pushing the military and trying to get them to do their job. That's basically all we're doing as members of Congress at all these hearings right now, is getting people in the administration who won't answer questions, who aren't giving public very much information, or quite honestly, unfortunately, sometimes misinformation, getting to the truth. And the bill today will be, I think, really important to support families. It will provide economic stimulus to the country. and hopefully it'll be that catalyst that can fix some of what's happening with the markets, but really getting that flattened curve on people who will get access to this so that we can not take the capacity of the healthcare systems in this country. So I think you're going to have, hopefully, I'm very hopeful today this will happen, a very strong bill.
Jeanette in Spirit Lake, Idaho. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Oh, thank you both. I listened to Bernie's address yesterday, and, obviously that's the leadership we really need in a president right now. But I'd like to see if you agree with me, and if you do, that you can pass along this message that Bernie needs to be as simple and straightforward in the debate as possible, and to specifically say that his democratic socialism is FDR democratic socialism, because that is a remedy that this country will need, especially if we take, the economic downturn that's possible. And also that he needs to specifically say that Medicare for All is not socialized medicine. It's the Medicare we have now, improved and expanded to everyone, so that we do not need.
So, Jeanette, we're going to hit a break in just a second. Let's let the Congressman respond.
I'm asking.
Congressman?
Yeah, Jeanette, I think what I'm looking for in the debate, it's going to be an odd format, right? There's no audience. They've moved the location. We're doing this in a time of crisis, but a clear contrast, I think, where the two are on issues and what his vision is for the future. And many of the things you said are very important to be included.
Thank you. Congressman Mark Pocan taking your calls for the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls for him in just a moment. It's Middays with Mark here on the Thom Hartmann program, live on Free Speech TV and nonprofit radio all across the country. We'll be right back. Hey, did you know that Hillary Clinton actually won Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Florida in the 2016 election? It's on page 92 of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Jim in Atwater, California. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Good day, gentlemen. First, a comment and a quick question. This coronavirus must now be referred to as a Trump Republican-caused pandemic. For him to not use a WHO test is a crime. He's causing this. We need millions of tests. Korea's testing 200,000. Anyhow, I was wondering if you're aware of what the voting irregularities or crimes caused by the DNC and Perez in Texas, and can he make sure it doesn't happen? Can you confront him and make sure it doesn't happen on the college campuses where the millennials, they have to come out? All you millennials got to understand, Joe Biden voted so you could not declare bankruptcy, and Bernie wants a jubilee.
Jim, I'm going to stop that right there because that's not a question. Congressman?
Yeah, I think the question that I got out of it, Tom, and if I'm incorrect, I apologize, is we just have to make sure in some of these places where we've seen these really long lines that we have enough polling places so people can vote. And now we may have to revisit on how the voting is happening. This idea of a vote by mail, I think, is intriguing. In Wisconsin right now for our April primary, we're trying to get people to get absentee ballots. So, we need to make sure you have enough polling places so people don't wait in lines to vote, period. And I take that point well taken.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of calls about some possible hanky-panky in Texas that was within the Democratic Party, and I want to fact-check those, and if they hold up, I'll send you a link in email,
thank you.
And we can talk about it in the future. That's what he was referring to. Jenny in Clio, Michigan. Is that Michigan or Montana? Yeah, Michigan. Hey, Jenny, you're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi, it's good to hear from you both, and you work very hard. It's really concerning, I was a social worker, so it's concerning containment of the virus. People, and also people that only can't afford like a $400 bill, like my toilet's gone and I got to repair it and I can't right now. But the big issue is like homelessness and the people in shelters. What kind of organization is there for helping these people and getting everything organized? Nothing.
Yeah, and let me add to that the children and and adults too that Donald Trump has in cages all over the country.
Yeah, so there's many issues I could go into there, Tom. I think the best I can say is right now you're going to see a package coming out, hopefully yet today. I just saw someone literally about 2 minutes ago saying there's still talks going on between Secretary Mnuchin and Speaker Pelosi. But we're going to have multiple packages, and the homelessness issue absolutely is going to be going to have to be a part of this down the road. There's going to be other issues, even potentially in this package. Because we thought we were moving somewhere, but we haven't really seen where the final language is going to be here. We may have to be coming back even next week. We're not supposed to be back. I think eventually, if they don't have us come to Washington, we still may have to figure out how to fly in to support various packages, and we're going to do what has to happen. We've put a lot of ideas in the Progressive Caucus to leadership around many of the subjects you just mentioned, and I think you'll see more packages addressing these if they're not included in today's package.
John in Minnetonka, Minnesota, you're on the air with Congressman Pocan, and we have just, I believe, 2 minutes to the end of the hour.
I'll keep it very short. I am 67, and I am a member of the gig community. I'm not able to work other jobs, and the way things are structured, there's 40 or 50 million of us who have to work a gig economy. I don't hear any talk in helping, I hear talk about helping people with hourly and salary and unemployment benefits, but my business just got shut down. I do like home and garden shows, that kind of stuff. It got shut down. I have no way of earning income. I don't have unemployment. Is anything being done to help people in the gig economy? And if so, please talk about it so we can relieve that stress.
Yeah, John, so it has been. There's a number of proposals from extending unemployment to talking about the idea of the universal basic income during this period. I'm not sure where it's going to end up because our difficulty sometimes is with the Republicans on these issues. That's why it was so ridiculous when I think it was Kevin McCarthy said we're just trying to get a wish list in. This isn't a wish list of things. This is stuff that we need to do right now for your very situation. So definitely it's been part of our conversations. Where we get to with the Republican as these various packages come out, I can't tell you, but absolutely people are talking here in Washington about people who work in your industry in the gig economy.
Minute and a half to go. George in Garden City, Kansas. Quick one for Congressman Pocan, please.
Yes. If they suspend payroll tax, will that affect Social Security payments? Thank you.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions we have. We don't think that's one of the best ways to go forward. I don't know whether or not the White House is going to say it has to happen in order to get some of these other things to happen. That's part of what the conversations are about right now. But if you do reduce that payroll tax and take money out of Social Security, that would certainly be the wrong move to do for many, many reasons. So we just don't think it's the best way to do what we need to do right now, period. But that is certainly one of the byproducts we're watching out for, George.
Wow, remarkable. Congressman, we have about 30 or 40 seconds. Thoughts on the coming week, what we should be doing, looking for, et cetera?
Yeah, things are moving fast. Every day, a lot of information is coming out. You're going to hear a lot more worse information before it gets better. But again, I think the most important thing, just wash your hands on a regular basis, 20 seconds, hot water and soap. Make sure that you're coughing into your elbow. If you're sick, don't go to work. And we need to do the social distancing where we can. So group activities are not the best activities right now. We do this, we flatten the curve, we won't overtake our healthcare systems, and we will be more like South Korea in how they responded rather than Italy. So just have a lot of patience with your neighbors and friends right now, including people who may say troll-like things on Twitter because they're not necessarily getting the same information. Let's do this together.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Congressman Pocan. Thanks so much for dropping by again this week. It's always appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Have a great one. Congressman Mark Pocan, pocan.house.gov, and you can text him or tweet him rather at Rep. Mark Pocan. We'll be back with Anything Goes Friday. The last hour is yours.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Last chance to call right now. You can call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669. This is literally the last chance. It's the end of our program, and it's the end of the pledge, and it's Friday, and that's it. So call now, 877-378-8669, and let the folks at Free Speech TV know that you are contributing and that you want to help support this network and help support this program and keep us all on the air and keep everything going. We are just this close to hitting our goals, which is wonderful. And we really need your help to do that. There's all kinds of great premiums, including autographed copies of my books and the t-shirts and all kinds of cool stuff. Please call now and make your contribution, 877-378-8669. It's really important. It's really important to do it now. It's really important to do it, well, now, I guess, last chance. Please call now. Thank you so much. So it's Friday. It's the last day of the fund drive. It is your last opportunity to say to Free Speech TV and to this show, yeah, I value you as much as Netflix or Hulu or whatever I subscribe to, which is what, $10 a month or something, like $15 a month. I'll make a regular recurring contribution to Free Speech TV, or I'm going to send in $150 today and get a copy of that book or one of those t-shirts, or $50 and get the tote bag, or whatever it may be. This is your last chance, and we are so close to hitting our goal for this pledge. We just need a really good Friday, and if you can help with that, if you haven't already called 877-378-8669, now is the time to do it. Please call now, 877-378-8669. We subscribe to so many different things, your cable service or your satellite service. You may pay for premium channels. There's all these things that, frankly, Netflix and Hulu, I suppose you could say that's as important as Free Speech TV because we need to be both entertained and informed, but let's do both, if that's what it is, whatever it may be. But please help out now. Whether it's a $5 or $10 or $15 or $25 a month, monthly, recurring, becoming a sustaining member of Free Speech TV, or whether it is simply a one-time gift, from a $5 gift to a $500 gift. Whatever is comfortable for you, whatever you can afford, whatever you would like to give to support Free Speech TV and this program, this is your last opportunity today. Last chance. So get it in now. Call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that encourages people to just get out there and vote. I'm voting, are you? With a $50 gift, with a $30 gift, there's the world famous Trump toilet paper. Trump has apparently a gold toilet or a gold-plated toilet. We can't give those away, but we can give away Trump toilet paper with a $30 gift. So call now and get your Trump toilet paper. It's, if nothing else, it's just wonderful when company comes to visit. If you're sheltering in place, as it were, self-quarantining, it'll give you a smile. That's with a $30 gift. With a $50 gift, there is the Just Effing Vote canvas tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug. And I've got to get over to the Free Speech TV website online and get my own here. I'm going to have to. I keep meaning to do that. That's with a $75 gift. With a $120 gift, you have your choice. There is an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, and you've heard me tell the story about that book and the other books, through the course of the week, so I won't repeat that at length. But I think it's a really important book, and it's a book that that we all should try to get as many people as possible to read. Whether you get one copy and you just pass it around to a lot of people, or whether you get a couple of copies and send them to friends and neighbors, or if you already have one, make this one your personal copy because it's autographed. Whatever. This is, and I'm not saying this because I wrote the book. There's a lot of other people who are saying the same thing. Greg Palast, for example. This is one of the most important books in America right now. It's with a $120 gift. You get an autographed copy. With a $240 gift, get together. We will get together on the internet and have a virtual meet and greet, coronavirus free. With a $300 gift, there is the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family. There's the car magnet, to help get out the vote. There's the Just Effing Vote tote bag. And there is the autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $360 gift, there are all three of the Hidden History series books. That is The Hidden History of the War on Voting, which we talked about, the hidden history of the Supreme Court and how the Supreme Court has betrayed our country. It has certainly betrayed the values of the New Deal and the Great Society. The Supreme Court is the most right-wing instrument in the American government right now. And they have done just extraordinary harm to working people in this country, to the social fabric of our country, and they continue to. And Trump wants to make it even worse. And we just can't let that happen. And then also the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment, the whole story, the whole racist history, essentially, of not just the Second Amendment, but it actually starts out with the use of guns to conquer people in the Americas, how Europeans came over here and committed a mass genocide larger than any the world has ever seen. Everybody remembers the Holocaust. This was much larger, and it's still going on. And so that's in the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment. And that's with a $360 gift. You get all three books. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and see us, once the insanity here kind of dies down. So, I don't think I named the two T-shirts, the $120 gift T-shirts if you want. Just Effing Vote and Ask Me About Free Speech TV. So those are the premiums, those are the gifts. But the most important thing is this is your last chance right now. 877-378-8669. Your last chance to become part of the Free Speech TV family. Support this program and our network. 877-378-8669. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you live from home. And this from the Los Angeles Times. Despite mounting pleas from California and other states, the Trump administration is not allowing states to use Medicaid more freely to respond to the coronavirus crisis by expanding medical services. In previous emergencies, including the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Hurricane Katrina, and the H1N1 flu outbreak, both Republican and Democratic administrations loosened Medicaid rules to empower states to meet surging needs. But today, the White House and senior federal health officials have not taken the necessary steps to give states simple pathways to fully leverage this mammoth safety net program. This is amazing. Cindy Mann, who oversaw the Medicaid program in the Obama administration, worked with the states to help respond to the H1N1 flu crisis in 2009, said if they wanted to do it, they could do it, but they haven't. And, we'll see. The New York Times is reporting that Trump may declare a national emergency today or tonight. If he does, that may open up this Medicaid funding. We'll see. It is Anything Goes Friday. I just wanted to bring you up to date on some of the news stories here, and then I'll be taking your calls for the rest of the show. Public Citizen, Robert Weissman, who was on our program a couple days ago, the president of Public Citizen, citizen.org. We had Melinda St. Clair from Public Citizen on earlier today. He's the president of Public Citizen, and he has come out and explicitly called for Donald Trump to stand down, to step down, turn the government over to Mike Pence. Time to leave office. And Paul Krugman is saying the same thing. This is remarkable. Kirsten Gillibrand went after the Trump payroll tax deduction. Trump tweeted this morning, the solution to this is, I'm paraphrasing from memory here, basically what we need to do, or if we want to solve this problem right now, is we need to eliminate the Social Security tax. Of course, that would eliminate Social Security eventually, but you understand. So anyhow, what she says in response to, he said, well, here's actually what Trump said, and I quote, this is his tweet. If you want to get money into the hands of people quickly and efficiently, let them have the full money that they earned. Approve the payroll tax cut until the end of the year, December 31. Then you're doing something that's really meaningful. Only that will make a difference. And so Gillibrand, Kirsten Gillibrand, senator from New York, says, so again, President Trump is disconnected from the American people and their realities. Again, the example you gave, a single mom, primary sole wage earner, gets a notice that the children have to stay home. Her getting a payroll tax deduction isn't going to help her if she's losing her job. That's the point. You need a national paid leave in that example. And, she said if a worker is sick, getting more money out of their paycheck isn't going to help. If they're spreading coronavirus to the people they're working with at work when they're sick, they need to stay home. So the solutions that we've offered are the most common sense and important and economically solvent. But of course, the solutions the Democrats are proposing ain't happening. From our European correspondent, here's what's happening around the world. This is from Nigel, our webmaster. He lives in the UK. And, one of our two webmasters. In England, the Major League Football stopped by football authorities. Scotland, all football at any level stopped by the Scottish government. In Europe, the European Football League has been stopped. Czech Republic banning entry to the country for all but their own residents, which, by the way, violates the rules of the EU. Slovakia, same thing. Austria, all shops to close starting on Monday, except some cafes and food shops. Spain, the British people are being advised not to visit parts of Spain unless urgent. France has banned public gatherings of more than 100 people for any reason. Germany is offering unlimited loans to businesses with no upper limit. Nigel adds, in the UK, the government have not required large meetings of people to be banned, but sports of several sorts are taking the action themselves. Politically in the UK, the media has started to turn against the Boris Johnson Conservative government the past few hours, asking why there is no formal ban on schools being open or ban on large gatherings. Argentina has banned flights from all European countries from the U.S., China, Iran, Japan, and South Korea, and Peru and Paraguay have suspended all flights to and from Europe and Asia. And Aaron Carroll writes an extraordinary piece in today's New York Times. The biggest thing to worry about with the coronavirus, and basically the bottom line is that he said we have 45,000 intensive care beds in the United States, ICU beds in the United States, 45,000. Most of those are in use right now anyway. But he says in the case of a moderate outbreak, we would need 200,000 of these beds. He says hospitals don't survive financially in the United States by keeping open beds and equipment idle. And he said, talking about ventilators, for example, if a pandemic more closely followed the model of Spanish flu outbreak, we would need more than 740,000 ventilators. We have some 30 or 40,000. The tale is cautionary. He says in Italy, more than 12,000 people have been infected, more than 800 have died, a little over 1,000 have recovered. Many of the rest are still ill, and a significant number need to be hospitalized. South Korea has flattened its curve by engaging in extreme testing and social distancing. They set up drive-through screening stations. As of Sunday, 190,000 people there had been tested for the virus. And Fred got an email from Donald Trump. Wouldn't you love to have dinner with Donald Trump? I mean, you could shake his hand, right? Fred, I have a very important dinner coming up, and I'm inviting you to enter for the chance to be my special VIP guest. By the way, Jed Legum followed up on these. They haven't been able to find anybody who's actually had a dinner with Trump. They get flown to some place for some dinner, but Trump doesn't show up. Anyhow, he says, I'm only offering this opportunity to my top supporters like you, Fred, because I really want to do something nice to show you just how much you mean to me. If you win, you'll get to bring a guest of your choice to share the experience, and we'll even get to take a photo together so we might remember the night forever. Please contribute $42 in the next hour to win your chance, blah-de-blah. And then there's this whole box of small print down at the bottom, which says, contributing or sending a text message will not improve your chances of winning. Void where prohibited. By sending a text message from your mobile phone, you are providing your written consent to receive calls and SMS, MMS messages, including auto-dialed and automated calls and texts to that number from each of the participating committees in the Trump Make America Great Again Committee, Donald J. Trump for President, Inc., and the Republican National Committee. Consent is not required as a condition of entry. This is like in 6-point type. It's really, really hard to read. So this is, and finally, the super rich are jetting off to disaster bunkers. This in The Guardian amid coronavirus outbreaks. Incredible. Just incredible. Anyhow, Jeff in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Thanks for taking my call. And let me just say, in these surreal and unsettling times, you and this show remain a steady voice of reason and sanity that's much needed. So thank you, and to everyone involved with the show. for sure. Having said that, I do have a slight disagreement with, followed by a question. Earlier in the week, you were asserting that no matter how the Democratic Party ends up, the primary ends up, you believe Bernie and his ideas have already won. And I agree that it's truly incredible how much Bernie has mainstreamed and brought mass acceptance to Medicare for All, Green New Deal, etc. But personally, Tom, I don't think we can declare victory unless A, Bernie wins, or B, if he doesn't win, we at least get a true progressive as Biden's running mate. Therefore, in my opinion, we need Bernie to keep going full speed. And I refer you to 2008 when I believe Hillary didn't concede until to Obama until the month of May, and we still won in a landslide that year. So my question to you, Tom, if Bernie knocks it out of the park on Sunday with the debate, do you think he could possibly start garnering endorsements from like prominent progressives like Stacey Abrams, Andrew Gillum, not to mention Elizabeth Warren? It's kind of frustrating, I think, to a lot of progressives that we haven't coalesced like the centrists have.
Yeah. Jeff, I think that the value of endorsements, with a few exceptions, is way overstated. Obviously, Jim Clyburn's endorsement of Joe Biden did it in South Carolina for Joe, and that.
And what about Beto in Texas too?
It may well have, turn out to have worked very well in Texas for Joe Biden. Yeah. But setting endorsements aside, I think if Bernie knocks it out of the park, or probably more likely, if Joe basically blows it, then it's we will know the results on Wednesday, because on Tuesday there's a whole bunch of other states having elections. So we'll be right back. And welcome back. Claire in Fort Worth, Texas, watching Free Speech TV. Hey, Claire, what's up?
Oh, good morning. I wanted to comment on the person that called about the elections in Fort Worth and Dallas, and some of the comments that he made. First of all, I was at all of the meetings in Tarrant County, which is Fort Worth, where these decisions were made, and it's a long and complex process. But basically, each county made its own decision, irrespective of what any national party or state party wanted to do. Each county bought its own machines. Each county's commissioner's court voted on whether or not to adopt voting centers and to get the new machines. There were no decisions made to rearrange the locations of voting in Tarrant County. We did not move any precincts that weren't already combined. With 235 precincts, we had 196 open. The biggest problem we had was that the two executive committees of the two parties each voted separately to not combine machinery at our primary locations. The actual voting machines are not party dependent, so that could have been done, and both of them did, each for different reasons, but that's why. And I don't know what Dallas did.
What were their reasons?
Mostly the Republicans didn't want to work with us, and the Democrats didn't want to deal with how quite often they are treated by the other party.
So none of this was being motivated by a desire to have fewer votes available in areas where there were a lot of students that might go out for Bernie?
No, we had 10 days of early voting at several of our universities and a rotating booth that went around to our community college. And we had our party management is very cognizant of what goes on in minority communities. And the tiniest little voting centers remained open. We're not making any changes here until after the 2020.
Claire, do you know anything about missing cards memory cards with votes on them?
Our memory cards are not used until the machines get to the voting area. And actually, my experience in training was that the memory cards just came on to clear the machines for the next training class. The voting machines themselves do not hold data. just the scanner. And those papers are boxed up and sealed before they leave the polls and go to the elections office, which is not run by either party.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know about Dallas. No, on the state government, it's in Tarrant County. Each county has its own elections commission, and ours is hired. They're not appointed. So there you go. Anything else you want to ask that I didn't think of?
I think you've been fairly comprehensive, and I'm glad to hear that if there were screw-ups, they were the old-fashioned variety.
And, it was, things like the Republicans got more machines than the Democrats did, and the Democrats turned out where they normally don't. And that's pretty much it. Because we're in a split building, half on one side, half on the other. So it won't happen in November because we won't have that arrangement.
There you go. Okay, good. That's good to know, too. Claire, thank you very much. Thanks for the call. I appreciate the information. We'll be back. It is 19 minutes past the hour, and we'll be back with your calls on Windows Friday. Our 1 hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3 hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Just a couple of quick things. The first is that this is the quote from NPR day before yesterday. In the case of Alex Azar, he did go to the president in January. He did push, this is a guest on NPR, he did push past resistance from the president's political aides to warn the president the new coronavirus would be a major problem. There were aides around Trump. Kellyanne Conway had some skepticism at times, and this is something that needed to be a presidential priority. But at the same time, Secretary Azar has not always given the president the worst case scenario of what could happen. My understanding is that Trump did not push to do aggressive additional testing in recent weeks, and that's partly because more testing might have led to more cases being discovered of coronavirus outbreak, and the president had made clear the lower the numbers on coronavirus, the better for the president, the better for his potential reelection this fall. Mind-boggling, number one. And secondly, Trump tweeted out this morning that President Obama screwed up the response to the H1N1 flu virus, and that don't have it right here in front of me. If you go to the fact checker, Trump just tweeted out a blatant lie this morning about Obama. Louise and I were in the room at the Correspondents Association dinner. We were probably 100 feet from Donald Trump and his party when Barack Obama, President Obama, from the dais looked down at Trump and made fun of him for 10 minutes. And Trump looked like he had steam coming out of his ears. He had his arms crossed over his chest, and there was just hate on his face. And the people around him looked terrified. And I really believe that a lot of what he's doing to this day, and the reason why he's trash-talking Obama this morning, is that he's still PO'd about that. He's still angry about that he hates Obama because Obama made fun of him. And, of course, also he never accepted Obama even as a legitimate president, America's first black president. So anyway, Jim in Salisbury, North Carolina. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, thanks for taking my call. My question has to do with the president's going to speak at 3 o'clock today and believes he's going to declare a national emergency. And that will kind of activate the Stafford Act for Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance, FEMA. They'll get in. My question is, do you think, and I believe he will, but can he, by declaring this national emergency a few weeks or months down the road, suspend the general elections in November? Because we won't have a queue until a year. Cannot do it.
Right. He cannot do that.
That's good.
I had asked, in fact, I should have asked him about this on the air because we've been corresponding in an email about it. 2 weeks ago and last week on the air, I asked Congressman Pocan if that was a possibility. And he had his staff talk with the Congressional Research Service, which is this arm. It's not even an arm of Congress. It's an independent agency that answers exclusively to Congress I can't and you can't ask the CRS to research any issue, but a member of Congress can ask them to research anything. What was the first day of a coronavirus infection in China? Does the president have the authority to suspend elections? Whatever it may be. He asked the CRS this. They gave him an answer. He shared that answer with me in email, which he can legally do. I'm not sure if he can publish them or not. And the answer was no. But they qualified it. The Congressional Research Service said Congress could, under the Constitution, pass legislation to give the president that power. But at the moment, the president does not have that power. It would require an act of Congress. So, Jim, thanks a lot for the call. I hope that answers your question. Ruth in Seattle. Hey, Ruth, what's up?
Hey, hi. I'm sick here in Seattle with COVID, not been tested. But
how do you know it's COVID?
How do I know? Symptoms mostly, but
or what
secondly, a nurse, a friend of mine who is a hospice nurse in the Kirkland area, very close to me, who I've had contact with, also has symptoms. There are no tests here, so nobody can say in Seattle, maybe not nobody, very, very, very few people can say, I have COVID. And so
you have a dry cough, you're not producing mucus, and you have fever that is high or comes and goes? Is that?
Oh, I can tell you how because I'm in my second week now of this. It started with swollen glands in my throat, kind of a sore throat, came and go, kind of, the kind of thing like, feel a little run down, I'll have a cup of tea, and then you're fine, kind of a thing. And one day I had runny eyes, and then it all goes away. And then it came back with a vengeance just to my chest, just like asthma and coughing. And then heavy chest, difficulty breathing, that kind of thing. What I tried to call about is that I believe, first of all, when I was having the most difficulty breathing, I went to call my Kaiser hotline, they have special numbers to call, and I was the 13th in the queue. And as I was watching go down the queue, 12th, it was taking about 15 to 20 minutes for each one. So with 13 people there, that's hours.
Right. So
I'm sorry, I was getting a call.
That's incredible.
That's
quite all right. We have about 45 seconds to the break, Ruth. Did you make
so
the
the
point you
medical
wanted to make?
system is collapsed. Okay, yeah. A medical system here in Seattle is collapsing. If people keep calling to get tested when there are no tests, when they're calling for minor when they're calling for their fever or cold or flu symptoms to see if they need a test, it's clogging up the lines for people who are very seriously ill. And if that happens, then they go to the 911, and then 911 gets clogged up, and we're going to have 4-hour waits on the 911 when 911 says, "Can you hold, please?" You're the 14th.
Right. So if you're not seriously ill, don't interact with the system. And if you are seriously, but do stay away from everybody, socially isolate.
Correct.
And if you are seriously ill, then
please, bandana, mask, anything you can do to cover. Everyone needs to be covered. Everyone needs to be covered.
Okay. Ruth, thank you. Thank you very much for the call. I wish you the very best, and call back next week and let us know how you're feeling. It's fascinating. We're going to start hearing stories from people who have been confirmed, and I think it's going to be very interesting. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Coming up on 28 minutes past the hour, it's the Thom Hartmann Program, the place where despair is not an option, damn it. We will be back with more of your calls on Anything Goes Friday. So it's Friday. It's the last day of the fund drive. It is your last opportunity to say to Free Speech TV and to this show, yeah, I value you as much as Netflix or Hulu or whatever I subscribe to, which is what, $10 a month or something, like $15 a month. I'll make a regular recurring contribution to Free Speech TV, or I'm going to send in $150 today and get a copy of that book or one of those T-shirts, or $50 and get the tote bag, or whatever it may be. This is your last chance, and we are so close to hitting our goal for this pledge. We just need a really good Friday. And if you can help with that, if you haven't already called 877-378-8669, now is the time to do it. Please call now, 877-378-8669. We subscribe to so many different things, your cable service or your satellite service. You may pay for premium channels. There's all these things that, frankly, Netflix and Hulu. I suppose you could say that's as important as free speech TV because we need to be both entertained and informed. But let's do both. If that's what it is, whatever it may be. But please help out now. Whether it's a $5 or $10 or $15 or $25 a month monthly, recurring, becoming a sustaining member of Free Speech TV, or whether it is simply a one-time gift, from a $5 gift to a $500 gift. Whatever is comfortable for you, whatever you can afford, whatever you would like to give to support Free Speech TV and this program, this is your last opportunity today. Last chance. So get it in now. Call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that encourages people to just get out there and vote. I'm voting, are you? With a $50 gift, with a $30 gift, there's the world famous Trump toilet paper. Trump has apparently a gold toilet or a gold-plated toilet. We can't give those away, but we can give away Trump toilet paper with a $30 gift. So call now and get your Trump toilet paper. It's, if nothing else, it's just wonderful when company comes to visit. If you're sheltering in place, as it were, self-quarantining, it'll give you a smile. That's with a $30 gift. With a $50 gift, there is the Just Effing Vote canvas tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug. And I've got to get over to the Free Speech TV website online and get my own here. I'm going to have to. I keep meaning to do that. That's with a $75 gift. With a $120 gift, you have your choice. There is an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, and you've heard me tell the story about that book and the other books, through the course of the week, so I won't repeat that at length. But I think it's a really important book, and it's a book that that we all should try to get as many people as possible to read. Whether you get one copy and you just pass it around to a lot of people, or whether you get a couple of copies and send them to friends and neighbors, or if you already have one, make this one your personal copy because it's autographed. Whatever. This is, and I'm not saying this because I wrote the book. There's a lot of other people who are saying the same thing. Greg Palast, for example. This is one of the most important books in America right now. It's with a $120 gift. You get an autographed copy. With a $240 gift, get together. We will get together on the internet and have a virtual meet and greet, coronavirus free. With a $300 gift, there is the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family. There's the car magnet, to help get out the vote. There's the Just Effing Vote tote bag, and there is the autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $360 gift, there are all three of the Hidden History series books. That is The Hidden History of the War on Voting, which we talked about, the hidden history of the Supreme Court and how the Supreme Court has betrayed our country. It has certainly betrayed the values of the New Deal and the Great Society. The Supreme Court is the most right-wing element in the American government right now. And they have done just extraordinary harm to working people in this country, to the social fabric of our country, and they continue to. And Trump wants to make it even worse. And, we just can't let that happen. And then also the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment, the whole story, the whole racist history, essentially, of not just the Second Amendment, but it actually starts out with the use of guns to conquer people in the Americas, how Europeans came over here and committed a mass genocide larger than any the world has ever seen. Everybody remembers the Holocaust. This was much larger, and it's still going on. And so that's in the hidden history of guns and the Second Amendment. And that's with a $360 gift. You get all 3 books. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and see us, once the insanity here kind of dies down. So, I don't think I named the 2 T-shirts, the $120 gift T-shirts if you want. Just effing vote and ask me about Free Speech TV. So those are the premiums, those are the gifts. But the most important thing is this is your last chance right now. 877-378-8669. Your last chance to become part of the Free Speech TV family. Support this program on our network, 877-378-8669. Thank you. Coming up on the Science Revolution this week, first, Trump is using the same logic on COVID-19 that he used for pesticides and pollution. And I'll explain why that's not a good thing. Nile Marian, Forestry and Biodiversity Framework Coordinator with Friends of the Earth International, is here. Can we stop mass extinctions? Eva Hamer, Legal Coordinator of Direct Action Everywhere, drops by on her article, Why I Went Topless at Costco. Plus, geeky science. This is what happens when public transit is free. But wait, there's more. Tune in to the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are found. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann program. Just got a note from a listener. It's unusual, frankly, that emails about the show and things get through to me because my spam filter, if any political words are in an email and the person's not on my list, I never see them. But this one got through. He says, today you said Trump lied about production of coronavirus kits, 2 major labs in the U.S., et cetera. And he said, I'd like to suggest you make an archive of articles you talk about on the show. Sometimes I'd like to follow up. It exists every single day. And Wesley, this is my response to you and to anybody else who might ask, that or a similar question. And that is that every day Sue Nethercutt puts together, and you can follow her on Twitter as well, by the way. She puts together a list of every single story I've talked about, and it's called Sue's Daily Stack. And and we have an email newsletter that goes out to tens of thousands of people every single day. And it's got some little ads that run down the side that basically subsidize it. And it's free. And we don't share the list with anybody. We don't sell the list. It's entirely in-house and proprietary. You'll never get anything else in the mail from us. And it has my daily take on it, which we usually post on Facebook. And then it has Sue's Stack. And sometimes there's other good content in that newsletter. So you just go over to thomhartmann.com and subscribe to it. Like I said, there's no cost, there's no charge. You'll never get hassled. All you'll do is get a daily newsletter, and it will have, and the stack includes hyperlinks to every single thing I talk about in every single show. So if you have any questions or want to know what's going on, that's how you do it. So, Dennis in Bergenfield, New Jersey. Hey, Dennis, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, I have a question about taxes as usual. So on the left, I always hear that, there's a social contract or that, we benefit from the government services, which means taxation is not theft, and which means that nobody earns anything in isolation because somehow or another they use the infrastructure of the government, and that, even if we invest in education, we'll get some money back, a surplus in taxes. For every dollar we spend, we get more in taxes. But, my question to you is, what's the best argument to convince, conservatives like me? Because I get it, but I feel like a lot of conservatives, who are different don't understand it. So how would you convince them out of those arguments?
I think you just summarized it well. I mean, a real simple way to say it would be, we are all members of society. Society, if we didn't have a cultural, intellectual, educational, and physical infrastructure, which cannot be provided by private industry, and private industry is not going to build our roads. It's not going to provide us with police and fire. It's been tried. We've, toll roads and things. I mean, on a local basis. In fact, you can find examples of it that go back to the 1600s in the United States, and they almost always ended up in local wars happening. When some landowner would say, that road going through my land, I'm going to put a toll station there. Back in the 1400s or in the 900s in Europe, They build castles at those sites to collect tolls because they had to fight armies regularly. So all this infrastructure, all this stuff, has a cost associated with it. And that's why, to paraphrase the Declaration of Independence, governments are created among men and women, to provide, and people, to provide for that infrastructure. We're all in this together. None of us can exist independent of all the rest of us. We're social animals, and we need each other to survive and live. So how do we pay for that? Well, by taxing either income or wealth or both. And in the United States, we tax both. We tax the wealth of average people through property taxes, and although we don't tax the property of wealthy people unless it happens to be land, so they very smartly don't put their money in land, they put it in stocks. And we tax income, which is, and it's a progressive income tax. The more you make, the more you pay, because the more heavily you're using the resources of society. Isn't that straightforward, Dennis?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. The other thing I would say is,
I don't know another way to do it. I guess the thing to do would be to flip it around and say, Dennis, as a conservative or a libertarian, how would you provide for widespread education, for transportation, you wouldn't?
Right. Well, no, I'm saying you wouldn't be able to without some form of taxation.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much, Dennis. Good to hear from you. Melissa in Ann Arbor. Hey, Melissa, what's on your mind today?
Oh, I can't believe I'm talking to you. I'm listening since the Brunch with Bernie days.
Oh, well, thank you for calling. So what's up?
Anyway, I sent you some tweets about the 1918 flu and aspirin. I thought
I haven't had an opportunity to look at Twitter yet today. I'm sorry. You want to tell me what you sent me?
I've known for decades, so I thought everyone knew that mega doses of aspirin was what caused a lot of the deaths in the 1918 flu.
Oh, I did see that tweet. What you said was that the aspirin was thinning people's blood and it was causing, liquid to accumulate in people's lungs and killing them.
Also, it lowers their
I didn't
fever,
respond to that because. Go ahead.
It lowers aspirin lowers fever, so you can't not fighting the infection. But I think it's interesting because I hear you say that when the 1918 flu and the fall it actually got worse, but that was when the Surgeon General and the experts were suggesting the megadoses of the aspirin. So it seems to be correlated that way. There's some controversy about whether this was a huge effect or whether it was a smaller effect, but no one seemed to refute the whole concept of it.
There's two contrasting kind of, or at least my response is two contrasting thoughts. On the one hand, you're right, aspirin and any of the antipyretic drugs, anti-fever drugs, aspirin, ibuprofen, when you lower fever, the fever is it's the body's way of activating the macrophage, basically the cells in the body that fight infection. And so it cranks them up. So if you're lowering the temperature, you're reducing the immune response. So which you would think would be a bad thing if you're trying to fight off, a pathogen like a virus. On the other hand, some people die not from the virus, destroying cells and tissue, and it does because they hijack cells and cause the cells to convert their cytoplasm and protoplasm into viral DNA. But it's not the virus and the destruction of tissue that kills you, it's the immune response to it that kills you. And the fever goes so high that your body shuts down and collapses or systems start collapsing. And in that case, antipyretic drugs are useful and in fact may limit the damage that a disease does. Whether or not any of this has to do with the flu, I can't speak specifically to. And whether it will with the coronavirus, I have no idea either. It'll be real interesting, and probably we won't know for 6 months or a year, but to look back at what kinds of medications were being used with success in China, which is the largest experiment that we have right now. China uses a lot of herbal medicine. I studied acupuncture in China for a month back in 1988. I lived in Beijing. and the huge herbal pharmacies. I mean, just absolutely huge herbal pharmacies. And they use a lot of the local version of white willow bark, which is where aspirin came from. Back in colonial days, they would just strip the cambium off the white willows, the layer underneath the outer bark, and make that into tea. And that was, and it's acetylsalicylic acid. It's basically aspirin, and use that to reduce fevers. So whether they found that helps coronavirus or not, I think it's all fascinating stuff. But Melissa, if you want to tweet me a link to some specific research, I'd be glad to take a look at it again.
I sent several tweets because there were several links, but I didn't realize.
Okay.
I had never.
I'll go back and look at those when I
it.
get off the air.
I never actually researched it. I didn't realize they were using mega doses of aspirin. It was like at least 6 times our normal dose, and even higher.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, that's probably not a good thing.
I'd heard for decades not to take aspirin when you have the flu, but I don't necessarily think that like a normal dose would actually have that much effect, except for lowering the fever, which is necessary to get well. So.
Yeah, I mean, when I feel a cold coming on or the flu coming on, what I do is I try to induce a fever, and I'll take a sauna or a long hot bath. And there's really good research out of Finland, and you can find this online very easily, where they found that people who regularly take saunas have lower incidence of colds and flu, shorter incidence of colds and flu, and up to a 25% lower incidence of cancer, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. Although, there is a whole theory around cancer that cancer is the result of persistent inflammation. And if you jack the fever up, you're jacking the immune system and knocking out whatever's causing that long-term low-grade inflammation. Or at least that's one of the theories. But it's something that if you start Googling around or going around on this stuff, it can get really, really interesting. Melissa, thank you for the call. It's nice to hear from you, and I'll go back and check out your tweets when I get off the air. We'll be back with your calls on Anything Goes Friday the 13th here on the Thom Hartmann program, live from Portland. Stick around, we'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's Anything Goes Friday, the 13th, no less. Stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Let's see here. Lori in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Lori. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. What's up?
Hi, Don. How are you?
I am great. Hello? So far. So far, so
great.
Good. I'm fine. What's on your mind today, Lori? There's a slight delay because I'm remote here. So don't worry about us stepping on each other. Go ahead.
Recently, my husband had a heart transplant. And speaking of insurance and all the issues that we're having, it's been an incredible journey. We literally had to wait after he was approved by the hospital. We had to wait another 16 hours for the insurance company to approve it.
Wow.
And not only that,
was this in a crisis situation?
By the time he properly got diagnosed with heart disease, yes. It was a month and a half from the time he properly got diagnosed to the time he had his transplant. But he was sent home with cold and flu. Here's antibiotics for a month and a half. And but it's interesting. If you can't afford with our good insurance, well, supposedly what's supposed to be nowadays good insurance, nationwide company,
right.
If you can't buy the $1,200 a month, my cost of the anti-rejection meds and all the meds after transplant, you don't qualify. And if your insurance company doesn't pay for it, you don't qualify. If you don't have somebody that can take 6 months off work with you, be with you 24/7, you don't qualify.
That's incredible. See, this is why we need a national healthcare system. This, it's just straightforward stuff, and this is what Melinda St. Clair, I think was her name, the person from Public Citizen who was on earlier was talking about. Lori, thank you for calling and sharing your story. It's nice to hear from you, and I wish you and your husband the very, very best. Judy in Denver. Hey, Judy, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's up?
Hi. First, you can overdose on aspirin. But the reason I called was that $1.5 trillion yesterday was given by the feds to the bankers over 3 days. Today, Saturday, and Sunday. Nobody's talking about it.
Well, this is the reason why the market went up.
Yeah, one of the reasons. But unfortunately, the Democrats think that just giving sick leave, pay for the coronavirus, and unemployment is good enough for us. We don't need any type of bailout other than that. They won't even include paying for the treatment of the coronavirus. Well, they ignore the homeless, the incarcerated, the people, babies being held in our internment camps, and the poor. They don't seem
now,
to.
Is your indictment of the Democrats for not putting together a piece of legislation that will not survive the Senate, or is your indictment to the Republicans for forcing the Democrats to compromise?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't call that compromise. When the Senate, McConnell last night had the Senate go home for the weekend. He wanted to go home for 10 days. But yeah, I'm condemning the Democrats for not fighting harder for the people.
Okay. Judy, I get where you're coming from. I think putting together pieces of legislation that the Republicans will never even take a vote on is just an exercise in futility. But I get what you're saying. Judy, thank you for the call. Hey, did you know that Hillary Clinton actually won Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Florida in the 2016 election? It's on page 92 of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you live from Portland. It was Melinda St. Louis was the person from Public Citizen who was on our program a little earlier. Mark, watching us live on Twitter in Detroit, Michigan. Hey, Mark, what's up?
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
I just wanted to bring to attention the fact that a hospital system in Livonia, Michigan has not been taking the proper procedures for quarantining patients and limiting the care that patients that are not affected by the coronavirus are receiving, including testing and imaging. Pardon me?
Would that be St. Mary's Hospital?
St. Mary's Hospital in Livonia, Michigan.
Wow, that's where my first child was born.
Oh wow!
So I'm very familiar with that hospital. So what are they not doing, Mark?
So when we walked into the hospital system, there was no person with there were no people with masks. Masks were not readily available. There were people that they had said that were coming into their hospital system, getting checked for coronavirus in addition to their normal patient population. So it's not necessarily that they weren't doing anything to prevent the spread of coronavirus. They are...
In other words, they weren't segregating people out. I'm guessing that's probably the case in all hospitals in America. We just don't have the system for this right now. Because all these hospitals are most of them are running on a for-profit basis. St. Mary's was a Catholic hospital when we were there back in the 70s, but I don't know if they've been acquired or if they still are. But it's, we've got a really screwed up system here, Mark. And
absolutely. There was a girl that was in a wheelchair, visibly sick, looked like she had the flu, and a woman was pushing her and just told her to cover her mouth. This woman was forcefully coughing out into patient area, a waiting room, and very possible that people could get sick if this woman does have the coronavirus. And when we inquired about...
Or even if she has the flu.
It's possible, but regardless, this woman is presenting...
No, I mean, people can get really sick from the flu, too. She was, apparently, if that was the case. I'm agreeing with you, Mark. My point is that that's bad practice, whether it's the flu or the coronavirus. Thank you for sharing that story with us. I appreciate the call. Richard in Bellevue, Washington. Richard, what's on your mind today?
Well, first of all, I want to wish you and Louise, Sean, and all your good health and well-being for your sake, but also for ours.
Thanks, and Nate and Joyce and Lise and Sue and Nigel and Dave and everybody. Yeah.
What you're doing right now is more crucial than normal. It's abnormal times. I'd like to ask you, talk me down from my long-standing paranoid fear about the resident of this White House. Will he use this national emergency declaration that he's going to be putting out in about 15 minutes to consolidate even more power? Is this going to be a Reichstag, burning of the Reichstag moment?
I don't think so. I think that may come, and I wouldn't put it past Trump. The one good thing about this is that the Congressional Research Service says that Congress can give the president the power to suspend elections, but they have to pass legislation to do that. The Democrats control the House, and so that probably is not going to happen. But that said, most of what this is going to do, the two main things that I know of that an emergency declaration will do is, number one, it will free up the $40 billion FEMA fund. And so if we need to build, for example, MASH units next door to hospitals where just coronavirus people can be treated, things like that, basically a nationwide Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Maria kind of response, we can do that. And secondly, it'll allow the states to have more access to Medicaid money than they would normally have. It loosens the rules around that so that states can make their own choices about how they need to spend money, Medicaid money, medical money, to treat people. So, I wouldn't be totally freaked out about it. This is what the Democrats have been begging for 2 months now. So I think, in my opinion, it's a good start. Thanks a lot for the call. Becky in North Berwick, Maine. Hey, Becky, what's on your mind today?
Hey, I just wanted to mention while I was on hold that Nancy Pelosi made an announcement that the House was going to pass a coronavirus relief bill today that puts families first, including free testing for all. Good. And my no, I had two quick questions. Do you foresee the Progressive Party splitting from the Democratic Party? And number two, how in the world is Donald Trump's approval rating for his handling of the coronavirus at 43%?
Right. With regard to approval, you have to include the roughly 30% of Americans who get most of their news from Fox News and right-wing hate radio, which have been saying, he's wonderful, everything he does is perfect. With regard to the Progressive Caucus splitting off from the Democratic Party, I don't see that happening. What I see is them taking over the Democratic Party. And in fact, let me just riff on this a little bit. This is from my book, The Crash of 2016, and it's from an article in 1933, March 19, 1933, by Anne McCormick in the New York Times. And she's talking about Franklin Roosevelt. She said, one of the reasons for the present meekness of both houses, they were all going along with FDR and everything he wanted, is that every member is practically buried under avalanches of telegrams and letters from constituents. These messages come to Democrats and Republicans alike, sometimes profane, always imperative. They are mostly variations of a simple order. Support the president, give him anything he wants. She goes on in this piece, Mr. Roosevelt thinks and talks a great deal about government. He believes that at every turning point of history, someone rises up who can enunciate and, in a sense, personify the new direction of the public mind and will. In his view, America has reached such a crossroads. And the New York Times writing about how, Congress just had to go along with this progressive revolution because the people were demanding it because of the crisis of the Great Depression. I think the same thing is going to happen over the next year as a result of the crisis of this coronavirus. I'm actually optimistic long term. I'm concerned short term, and none of us want to get sick, but I'm actually very optimistic long term. Thanks so much for being with us today and this week. We'll be back on Monday, same time, same place. In the meantime, stay healthy, wash your hands a lot, and don't forget democracy requires you. Get out there, get active, tag You're It, and tell your friends how to find progressive media. We'll see you Monday.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
Last chance to call right now. You can call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669. This is literally the last chance. It's the end of our program, and it's the end of the pledge, and it's Friday, and that's it. So call now, 877-378-8669, and let the folks at Free Speech TV know that you are contributing and that you want to help support this network and help support this program and keep us all on the air and keep everything going. We are just this close to hitting our goals, which is wonderful. And we really need your help to do that. There's all kinds of great premiums, including autographed copies of my books and the t-shirts and all kinds of cool stuff. Please call now and make your contribution, 877-378-8669. It's really important. It's really important to do it now. It's really important to do it, well, now, I guess. Last chance. Please call now. Thank you so much.